Chapter 1005. Necromancer of Skyhall. Elder Gravesinger's crimson eyes widened in shock and his grip tightened around his staff as he thundered, "What news do you bring?" The black-armored soldier's voice trembled as he mustered the courage to respond. "Elder Gravesinger, I deeply regret to inform you that the mortal corpses we had collected and stored in your hall have been ravaged by an unforeseen fire. The squadron entrusted with guarding them abandoned their posts in pursuit of Noah, leaving the corpses vulnerable to this catastrophic event." The orc's normally composed visage contorted with rage, veins bulging on his forehead as he roared, "You imbeciles! Those corpses were the linchpin of my intricate ritual. The flow of power necessary for our operation has been irrevocably disrupted." The soldier's voice quivered as he continued, "Elder Gravesinger, know that swift retribution has been exacted upon the squadron. Elder Deathhead himself took charge, condemning the squadron leader to death and ordering the remaining members to be thrown alive into the fire as a chilling punishment." A sinister smile curled at the corners of Elder Gravesinger's lips, his voice dripping with venomous satisfaction. "A quick death? Such mercy bestowed upon them. I would have relished in the opportunity to strip their flesh piece by piece, subjecting them to unimaginable torment for their grievous negligence." Meanwhile, Michael, disguised as a black-armored soldier, observed the furious orc with amusement concealed behind his mask. It was he who had orchestrated the fire that consumed the corpses, reveling in the chaos and destruction it brought upon the Skyhall. The sight of Elder Gravesinger seething with anger only served to reinforce his belief that the elders of the Skyhall were anything but righteous figures. Suddenly, Elder Gravesinger's hand shot up into the air, causing the very ground beneath him to tremble with an ominous resonance. Michael and the black-armored soldier instinctively took several steps back, their eyes widening with a mixture of awe and trepidation. As if responding to the orc's command, the earth began to split open, revealing deep, gaping cracks that snaked their way across the desolate graveyard. Elder Gravesinger's voice carried an arcane resonance as he chanted under his breath, his words barely audible but laced with dark power. With each syllable uttered, the cracks in the ground deepened and widened, releasing tendrils of malevolent energy that danced and writhed like ethereal serpents. Out of nowhere, from one of the cracks, a bony hand emerged, reaching upwards with a haunting determination. Its skeletal fingers, weathered and ancient, grasped the edges of the crevice, followed by the emergence of countless other skeletal figures. They clawed their way out of the depths, their decayed remains caked in dirt and clinging to the remnants of tattered burial garments. The graveyard became a chilling spectacle as the skeletal beings, once dormant in their eternal rest, rose from their slumber. Their hollow eye sockets glowed with an eerie ethereal light, casting a ghastly illumination upon their bony frames. With jerky, unnatural movements, they shuffled forward, a legion of undead abominations called forth by the necromantic power of Elder Gravesinger. The air grew heavy with a palpable sense of horror as the skeletal horde assembled before their orc master. The chilling clatter of their bones reverberated through the night, a haunting cacophony that sent shivers down the spines of all who bore witness. The sight was both mesmerizing and horrifying, a macabre dance of death and undeath. As Elder Gravesinger surveyed his skeletal minions, a sinister smile played upon his lips, his eyes glowing with unholy delight. In that moment, Michael realized that the connection between Dalar, the Book of Death, and Elder Gravesinger ran deeper than he had ever imagined. The Orc Elder was a master of necromancy, wielding forces that defied the natural order and threatened to unleash a reign of terror upon the world. Elder Gravesinger's piercing gaze fell upon the black-armored soldier and Michael, his eyes burning with an intense malevolence. With a commanding tone, he spoke, his voice laced with dark authority. "You," he pointed his finger at the soldier, "gather the skeleton soldiers. They shall retrieve the coffins from Hall 12A and transport them to my pocket dimension. Ensure that they reach their destination intact." The black-armored soldier, his voice laced with a mix of obedience and fear, responded, "Yes, Elder Gravesinger. The skeleton soldiers will carry out your command." Elder Gravesinger turned his attention to Michael, his eyes narrowing as he studied the disguised figure. "And you, ensure that no one interferes with the skeleton soldiers' task. Protect their path and eliminate any who dare to stand in their way." Michael, hidden beneath the black armor, nodded in acknowledgement. "Consider it done, Elder Gravesinger. No one will impede the progress of your soldiers." With a final, chilling smile, Elder Gravesinger's gaze shifted back to the skeletal horde assembled before him. "Go now, my minions. Retrieve the coffins and deliver them to the teleportation hall. Let nothing deter you. The power within those coffins is vital to our cause." The skeleton soldiers, animated by force beyond mortal comprehension, heeded their master's command. They moved with a surreal unity, their bony limbs propelling them forward in a macabre march. As they began their relentless journey toward Hall 12A, a chilling aura of death clung to their forms. Michael and the black-armored soldier, their mission clear, positioned themselves at the forefront of the procession. They became the guardians of the skeletal entourage, their senses heightened and ready to unleash whatever force necessary to maintain the unhindered progress of the undead legion. The corridors of the Sky Hall echoed with the hollow footsteps of the skeleton soldiers, their presence evoking a sense of dread and foreboding. They passed through crumbling chambers and devastated halls, their goal unwavering. As the skeleton soldiers marched through the debris-strewn corridor, their hollow eye sockets ignored the wary glances of the Sky Hall soldiers who had gathered there. Though the onlookers were not surprised by the presence of the skeletal army, an unease flickered across their faces, betraying their underlying fears. Leading the way, Michael and the black-armored soldiers guided the relentless procession toward Hall 12A. It dawned on Michael that this very hall housed the coffins containing the demon skeletons. These coffins were once exhumed from the depths of demon graves and brought to the Sky Hall for inspection before being sent to the Rising Hall. Drawing connections, Michael's mind raced as he pieced together the intentions of Elder Gravesinger. It became evident that the Orc Elder spearheaded the endeavor to unearth these demon coffins, presumably with the aim of raising an undead army to oppose him, the Dark Lord. The fortunate turn of events, with the fire ignited by Michael and Noah's escape, had compelled Elder Gravesinger to relocate the coffins to his pocket dimension outside the confines of the Sky Hall. A daring idea began to form in Michael's mind, fraught with risk yet pregnant with possibilities. The shifting tides of fate had granted him an opportunity to exploit this situation to his advantage. As they reached Hall 12A, Michael was greeted by the familiar sight of a vast warehouse, where ancient coffins stood in neat rows, their weathered surfaces whispering of the secrets held within. He observed how the path between Hall 12A and the teleportation hall had been swiftly repaired by the diligent Sky Hall soldiers, allowing for easy access and swift transportation. With the skeleton soldiers now in position, Michael and the black-armored soldier watched in awe as the skeletal beings moved with surprising coordination and speed, effortlessly carrying the coffins upon their bony shoulders. "I'll go ahead and wait in the teleportation hall," the black-armored soldier announced, stepping aside to make way for the procession of skeletons. "Very well," Michael nodded, his gaze fixed upon the skeletal soldiers as they lifted and bore the coffins away. The black-armored soldier let out a weary sigh, remarking, "Say what you want, but these damn things can certainly get the job done," before making his way towards the teleportation hall. Once the black-armored soldier disappeared from sight, Michael remained at the doorway patiently biding his time. He knew that his plan hinged upon the precise moment, the perfect opportunity to execute his daring move. As he observed the movements of the skeleton soldiers, he discerned a pattern, a brief window of 12 seconds every 3 minutes when the hall would be devoid of their presence. 1, 2, 3. Michael counted silently, closing in on the crucial moment when the skeletons would momentarily vacate the hall in unison. When the awaited moment arrived, Michael sprung into action. He darted into the hall with swift agility, sliding open the lid of a nearby coffin, and leapt inside, closing the lid behind him in a hushed rush. He had managed to take advantage of those precious 12 seconds, slipping into the coffin undetected before the skeletal soldiers returned to the hall. Now concealed within the confines of the coffin, Michael's heart raced with anticipation. He knew that this risky maneuver would propel him deeper into the heart of the enemy's operations, bringing him one step closer to the truth and the ultimate confrontation with Elder Gravesinger. As darkness enveloped him, he braced himself for what lay ahead, ready to face whatever challenges awaited him on this perilous journey. Within the confines of the coffin, Michael experienced a mixture of sensations. The skeletal soldier's cold, bony hands securely grasped the edges of the coffin, lifting him effortlessly into the air. He felt a slight tremor coursing through the skeleton's form as it moved with an eerie grace, stepping forward and making its way through the corridor toward the teleportation hall. Every jostle and movement of the skeleton resonated within the coffin, causing Michael to feel a sense of confinement and anticipation. The rhythmic footsteps of the skeleton soldiers echoed in his ears as they carried him along, their hollow bones clicking and clacking with each step. As the procession neared the teleportation hall, Michael sensed a subtle shift in the air, as if it were charged with otherworldly energy. The low, resonant hum grew louder, seeping through the confines of the coffin, and he knew that the teleportation process was imminent. Finally, the skeleton soldier gently lowered the coffin to the ground, its movements calculated and precise. Michael could hear the muffled sounds of other coffins being set down beside him, forming a macabre symphony of eerie thuds. Then a surge of power rippled through the air. The atmosphere distorted and shimmered, like a mirage bending reality. The room seemed to pulsate with energy, and Michael felt a surge of anticipation and trepidation. Amidst the eerie glow, ancient runes etched onto the ground began to radiate with vibrant light. The glyphs shimmered and danced with an otherworldly power, harnessing the power of celestial energy in the air. They pulsed and throbbed, their luminescent glow growing in intensity until finally, they erupted in a blinding burst of light. In an instant, the coffin, along with the others, vanished from the teleportation hall, leaving no trace behind. The rune's power had worked its mysterious magic, transporting the coffins to Elder Gravesinger's pocket dimension, where they would await his command. As the teleportation process concluded, the sensations that had enveloped Michael within the coffin dissipated into a still darkness. He felt a momentary disorientation, suspended in a void of uncertainty. His heightened senses strained to perceive any clues about the enigmatic pocket dimension he now found himself in. With anticipation pulsating through his veins, Michael awaited the moment when he would emerge from the coffin, revealing himself as the Dark Lord. The element of surprise hung in the air, an invisible cloak he would soon shed to confront Elder Gravesinger face to face. Little did the Elder know that fate had conspired to bring the one he sought to destroy directly to his doorstep. Chapter 1006. Getting the demon coffins with the skull medallion clutched tightly in his hand, Elder Gravesinger made his way through the teleportation hall. As he pressed the medallion, the array beneath his feet glimmered, casting an ethereal light that engulfed the Elder. In an instant, he vanished from the hall, transported to his very own pocket dimension. This pocket dimension, curated specifically for his sinister necromantic rituals, exuded an eerie ambience. Its dark and foreboding atmosphere was tailor-made to accommodate Elder Gravesinger's macabre experiments and the awakening of the deceased. 3,000 years ago, when the Skyhall and the Guardian Guild relentlessly hunted down the Order of Death and all those suspected of supporting or worshipping the Dark Lord, the bodies of their victims were amassed in this very dimension. It became a burial ground on a massive scale, entrusted to Elder Gravesinger for his unholy undertakings. The pocket dimension itself seemed to exist in perpetual twilight, with an oppressive gray sky overhead. A thick mist shrouded the entire dimension, lending an otherworldly quality to the surroundings. Towering trees, devoid of leaves, stretched out like skeletal giants, their branches reaching out with an air of malevolence. These darkened sentinels were scattered throughout the dimension, standing alongside countless coffins that lay in solemn repose. As Elder Gravesinger approached the coffins, the army of skeleton soldiers parted to make way for their master. The sounds of their rattling bones echoed in the stillness as he made his way through their ranks. With measured steps, the Elder walked among the coffins, his gaze scanning the rows with a mix of anticipation and authority. A faint rustling sound reached Elder Gravesinger's ears, drawing his attention to one particular coffin. Frowning, he closed the distance, his eyes fixed on the source of the disturbance. Step by step he closed in, his presence exuding a commanding aura. Finally he stood before the coffin, the weight of his power hanging heavy in the air. Before opening the coffin, Elder Gravesinger paused, closing his eyes and attuning himself to the array's energies that permeated the pocket dimension. This place, devoid of any energy, was under his complete control. Anyone other than him who dared to step foot in this realm would be stripped of their powers, reduced to mere mortals. With a combination of carefully crafted arrays and the influence of his God-given abilities, Elder Gravesinger reigned supreme as the deity of this sinister dimension. What do we have here? Elder Gravesinger's brow furrowed as he reached out to push open the lid of the coffin. However, before his fingers could make contact, a sudden explosion shattered the coffin into fragments. The force of the blast rippled outward, knocking several of the skeleton soldiers off their feet. Yet, to the surprise of all, Elder Gravesinger remained rooted in place, defying the expected impact. In the blink of an eye, a hand emerged from the chaos, seizing hold of the skull-shaped medallion that adorned Gravesinger's neck. Before the stunned Elder could react, the hand swiftly plucked the medallion from his possession. A potent gust of wind surged forth, catching Gravesinger off guard and propelling him through the air. The entire sequence of events unfolded in a mere heartbeat, leaving those who witnessed it bewildered and astounded. The explosion of the coffin sent a cloud of dust and smoke billowing through the air, obscuring the scene from view. As the particles settled, revealing the aftermath, Elder Gravezinger was found sprawled on the ground, his body covered in a layer of dirt and mud. He swiftly rose to his feet, brushing off the soil that clung to his robes with a frustrated swipe of his hand. In a state of urgency, Elder Gravezinger's hand instinctively reached for his neck, his fingers searching for the familiar weight of his precious skull medallion. However, a growing sense of dread engulfed him as his touch met nothing but empty space. His eyes widened in realization as he understood that his treasured talisman had been snatched away, leaving him vulnerable and unable to teleport out of this place without activating the special arrays, which would take time. As the dust and smoke settled, revealing the aftermath of the explosion, a figure emerged from the haze, donned in a suit of black armor. The armor bore an intricate skull emblem, its eyes radiating a haunting crimson glow. Elder Gravezinger's gaze locked onto the figure, and his heart skipped a beat. He knew this face all too well, it was the visage of the Dark Lord himself. Time seemed to stand still as Elder Gravezinger's eyes widened in shock and disbelief. He stumbled backward, his jaw slack, unable to comprehend the sight before him. The calmness etched upon the Dark Lord's face only deepened the sense of unease that gripped the Elder's heart. The intensity of the crimson light in the skull's eyes contrasted sharply with the darkness of the armor, giving the Dark Lord an aura of both power and mystery. Elder Gravezinger's mind raced, attempting to process the magnitude of this unexpected encounter. Fear and uncertainty mingled within him, his hands trembling involuntarily. The Dark Lord's presence alone sent chills down his spine, and it became clear to the Elder that he was facing an opponent far more formidable than he had ever imagined. Diddle, you are so little? A serene calmness resonated in Michael's voice as his words reverberated throughout the eerie pocket dimension. Elder Gravezinger struggled to collect his thoughts, his mind still reeling from the realization that the Dark Lord had infiltrated his domain undetected, slipping through their defenses like a phantom. Get him. With a sudden surge of determination, Elder Gravezinger's shock transformed into a fierce resolve. He bellowed his command, his voice filled with equal parts anger and desperation, urging his skeleton soldiers to attack the intruder. The skeletal army, loyal to their master's call, charged at Michael from all directions, their bony limbs clattering in a macabre symphony. But Michael stood firm, an embodiment of unwavering confidence amidst the chaos. The billowing black cape that adorned his armored form danced gracefully in the ethereal wind, adding an air of mystique to his presence. His eyes, once filled with crimson radiance, transformed into pools of pure darkness, exuding an otherworldly aura. In an instant, Michael unleashed his power, a torrent of dark energy surging forth from his eyes. The beams of inky blackness sliced through the air with deadly precision, cleaving the skulls off the charging skeletons. The pocket dimension became a whirlwind of dislodged bone, as countless skulls were sent spiraling through the air in a grotesque ballet. The clash between the Dark Lord's dark energy and the skeletal army created a scene that was both captivating and horrifying. How do you use cultivation power? Elder Gravezinger's words stumbled out in a mix of shock and disbelief, barely forming coherent sentences. The realization that the Dark Lord possessed the power of cultivation struck him with profound astonishment. Michael, too, was taken aback by this revelation. He had assumed that the elders of Sky Hall held extensive knowledge about him, but it seemed that Gravezinger was oblivious to his capabilities. How can you hope to defeat your enemy? Michael calmly questioned, his voice tinged with a hint of incredulity, when you remain ignorant about who they truly are. As Michael spoke, the relentless tide of skeleton soldiers surged forward, their mindless existence fueled solely by Elder Gravezinger's necromantic powers. With no strategy or fear, they mindlessly charged at their intended target. Unfazed by the oncoming horde, Michael continued his deliberate approach, his every step purposeful. Growing darkness enveloped the area surrounding Michael, casting an ominous shadow over the confrontation. Within this shroud, Elder Gravezinger's gaze fixated on a sight that sent chills down his spine. He witnessed the emergence of a swirling black flame, burning within the depths of the dark shroud that encompassed the Dark Lord. The intensity of these black flames emanated searing heat, causing beads of sweat to form on Gravezinger's forehead. As the flame blazed forth, it consumed the approaching skeleton soldiers with ruthless efficiency. Before the mindless soldiers could draw near to the Dark Lord, their bones turned to ash, carried away by the whispering winds of the pocket dimension. The scene unfolded like a macabre dance as the relentless advance of the skeletons was met with the all-consuming power of the black flames. The air grew heavy with the scent of burning bone, mingling with the acrid tang of charred remains. With a mixture of frustration and desperation, Elder Gravesinger let out an enraged roar, his voice reverberating through the eerie pocket dimension. He realized that extracting any valuable information from the Dark Lord seemed futile. Enough! Gravesinger bellowed, his voice laced with fury. You won't get anything out of me with your pathetic attempts at conversation. In an act of grotesque defiance, his expression contorted into a deranged grin. With a swift, unnerving motion, he thrust his hand towards his own mouth, clutching his tongue tightly. The veins on his forehead bulged as the elder's face contorted in agony. Blood gushed from between his fingers, spraying in every direction, creating a macabre crimson mist in the dimly lit atmosphere. The torment etched across Gravesinger's face was juxtaposed with the manic glint in his eyes. He plucked his own tongue out, ripping it from his mouth with a sickening squelch. Blood cascaded from the severed tongue, splattering onto the ground in a grotesque display. The elder's twisted act of self-mutilation sent shockwaves through the air, mingling with the scent of blood and the stifled gasps of disbelief from those witnessing the scene. The sound of dripping blood and Gravesinger's pained gurgles filled the void, underscoring the depravity that unfolded before them. In this twisted moment, the dark forces at play revealed the depths to which Elder Gravesinger was willing to go, his madness and desperation laid bare for all to witness. The silence that followed was punctuated only by the faint whispers of the wind, carrying the weight of an unsettling realization. The battle between the Dark Lord and the Elder had descended into a realm far beyond the boundaries of sanity. As the macabre scene unfolded, a chilling laughter erupted from the lips of the Dark Lord. The sound reverberated through the twisted pocket dimension, mingling with the echoes of Gravesinger's pained gurgles and the lingering scent of blood. Amidst his laughter, the Dark Lord's voice rang out, cold and menacing. "Oh, Gravesinger, you misunderstand. I have no interest in torturing you for information. You possess nothing I need." His laughter subsided, replaced by an unsettling calmness that sent shivers down the spines of those present. Leaning closer, the Dark Lord's crimson eyes pierced through the shadows, fixed upon Gravesinger's bloodied form. "No, my dear Elder, I am here for a much simpler purpose. I have come to kill you and claim all these coffins that you have amassed." The casualness in the Dark Lord's tone was unnerving, his words laced with a dangerous certainty. There was no room for negotiation or compromise. His intentions were clear, and the weight of his words hung heavy in the air. Chapter 1007. Meeting the god of necromancy surrounded by the engulfing dark flames, Michael strode forward with an air of calm determination. The skeleton soldiers, drawn to Elder Gravesinger's agonizing roar, found themselves consumed by the intense heat before they could even reach their intended target. One by one they crumbled into ashes, their lifeless forms scattering into the wind. Approaching the fallen elder, Michael raised his finger, summoning a bolt of black lightning that crackled with potent energy. With precision and power, he directed the lightning at the orc's knees, shattering them in an instant. A gut-wrenching cry of pain escaped Gravesinger's lips, and his skeletal minions, sensing their master's anguish, froze in their tracks and collapsed to the ground. Crouching down, Michael locked eyes with the wounded elder, his voice dripping with a calm authority. "I do not need you, orc. I am a god and it comes with the power to make anyone become anyone, including the best necromancer. But I have to thank you for collecting all these demon coffins. I'll make sure they were put into good use," he said, a sinister smile playing upon his lips. "You are meddling with forces you don't comprehend, bastard." In a feeble attempt to defy his impending demise, Elder Gravesinger waved his fingers in the air, forming words made of his own blood. But Michael's laughter echoed in response, void of any trace of fear or concern. "Forcrux, the god of all that is dead will avenge me, Tiski. I have already incurred the wrath of 2 gods, and one more shall make no difference," Michael rebuked, shaking his head in mock disappointment. Rising to his full height, he resolved to bring an end to Gravesinger's life once and for all. Rising to his feet, Michael prepared to deliver the final blow, ending the orc's life once and for all. "If you see your so-called god after you die, do convey my message. Stay the fuck away from my path," he declared, his voice laced with both conviction and a chilling disregard for any divine entity. Dark beams erupted from his eyes, slicing through the feeble body of Elder Gravesinger, spattering the surroundings with a crimson spray of blood. With his demise, the skeletal soldiers, now bereft of their master, collapsed into a cloud of fine white dust, their existence fading into nothingness. However, as Michael turned around, his attention momentarily shifted to the skull medallion clutched within his hand. He needed to talk to Eladir about the medallion and this pocket dimension. But before he could utter a single word, a faint tremor reverberated through the ground beneath him. At first, it was subtle, like the distant rumbling of an approaching storm. However, the tremors grew in intensity, causing the very earth to crack and fissure beneath his feet. Curiosity tinged with a hint of caution, Michael slowly turned his gaze toward the source of this seismic disturbance. What he beheld left him spellbound and awestruck. Emerging from the fragmented ground, a colossal shadow began to take form, stretching and elongating with every passing moment. As the tremors intensified, the skeletal frame of an enormous dragon materialized before Michael's eyes. Each bone glimmered with an eerie phosphorescence as if infused with the remnants of countless fallen creatures. Sinewy wings unfolded, casting a haunting silhouette against the bleak sky, and bony spines protruded from its formidable back. The dragon's hollow eye sockets flickered with a malevolent crimson glow, fixating its gaze upon Michael. The ground beneath him continued to quake as the monstrous creature flexed its immense skeletal muscles, ready to unleash its wrath upon the intruder within its domain. In this moment, Michael stood in the presence of a fearsome entity, an embodiment of death and decay. "What the fuck?" Michael exclaimed, his voice laden with disbelief, as he watched the skeletal dragon steadily grow in size before him. Its bone structure expanded and elongated, stretching further into the sky with an eerie grace. The ground quaked violently beneath Michael's feet, threatening to knock him off balance. As the dragon reached a colossal magnitude, its presence seemed to transcend the physical realm. Suddenly, a chilling voice echoed through the dimension, reverberating in Michael's ears. "You have slain one of my devoted worshippers, Dark Lord," the voice intoned with an otherworldly resonance. "Now you shall pay the price for your audacity." A sense of foreboding washed over Michael as he recognized the voice as that of Forcrux, the self-proclaimed god of all that is death. His calm facade faltered for a moment, replaced by a flicker of uncertainty. Gathering his composure, he muttered under his breath, "Is this the work of Forcrux?" The monstrous skeletal dragon continued to grow, its colossal form dwarfing Michael in comparison. Its bones creaked and groaned, an unsettling symphony accompanying its expansion. The dark voids of its eye sockets bore into Michael's very essence, and an aura of malevolence permeated the air. Panda's novel. Calm in the face of this menacing monstrosity, Michael's expression remained remarkably composed. His mind raced, assessing the situation and formulating a plan to confront this embodiment of death and destruction. As the skeletal dragon unleashed a torrent of cold crimson flames from its gaping maw, Michael's instincts kicked in. He swiftly dodged to the side, narrowly avoiding the searing heat that threatened to engulf him. The flames licked at the air, scorching the ground where he had stood just moments before. The dragon, undeterred by its missed attack, lunged forward, its immense jaws snapping hungrily in Michael's direction. With lightning reflexes, he evaded the razor-sharp teeth that aimed to tear him apart. The force of the dragon's jaws clamped shut, sending a shockwave through the air that rattled the nearby coffins. In that moment, Michael's mind raced, analyzing the situation. He realized that engaging in a direct confrontation with the dragon amidst the coffins would risk damaging the very resources he sought to claim. He swiftly deduced that his best course of action was to lure the beast away from the vulnerable coffins, where collateral damage could be minimized. With determination in his eyes, Michael swiftly formulated a plan. He leaped back, putting some distance between himself and the dragon, and then turned to face his colossal foe. His gaze met the crimson glare emanating from the dragon's eye sockets, and he smirked. "I'll take this dance elsewhere," he murmured under his breath, his voice laced with a calculated resolve. Taking advantage of his agility, Michael sprinted toward the outskirts of the pocket dimension, deftly maneuvering between the towering skeletal trees. The ground trembled beneath him as the dragon pursued, its bony wings stretching wide in an attempt to gain speed. Michael knew that in order to defeat this formidable opponent, he needed to strategize and exploit any weaknesses. As the thunderous footsteps of the skeletal dragon echoed behind him, Michael pushed himself to the limits of his speed. His heart pounded in his chest as he weaved through the desolate landscape, the dragon's hot breath lingering on his heels. Feeling the dragon's fiery breath growing closer, Michael knew he had to change the rules of engagement. With a swift motion, he activated the hidden mechanisms within his armor. Metallic wings unfurled from his back, glimmering with an otherworldly light. With a single powerful flap, Michael soared into the sky, leaving the ground beneath him and the pursuing dragon behind. The skeletal dragon unleashed its wrath, sending forth a barrage of cold crimson flames that streaked through the air toward Michael. With keen reflexes, he maneuvered through the fiery onslaught, twisting and turning mid-air with acrobatic grace. He weaved between the flames, his movements resembling a dance, his body seemingly defying the laws of physics. I think you should take a look at Panda's novel. Commissing his agile wings to their fullest advantage, Michael executed swift dives and sudden ascents, evading the lethal breath of the dragon. He could feel the searing heat as the flames grazed his armored form, but he refused to let it hinder his focus. His mind raced, calculating the dragon's patterns and anticipating its every move. At times he executed daring barrel rolls, spinning in midair to narrowly avoid the encroaching flames. Other moments saw him executing sharp turns and spirals, exploiting the dragon's sheer size and lack of agility. With each evasive maneuver, Michael demonstrated his mastery over the skies, staying one step ahead of the skeletal menace. The chase continued, the dragon's relentless pursuit matched only by Michael's unwavering determination. With every passing moment he grew more adept at evading the dragon's destructive flames, his movements becoming increasingly fluid and precise. He danced with the danger, embracing the thrill of the chase while staying ever vigilant. Through his agile aerial acrobatics, Michael skillfully defied the dragon's attempts to corner him. He utilized every advantage his metallic wings granted him, soaring higher and swooping lower, taunting the beast with his elusiveness. The dragon's enraged roars filled the air as its frustration mounted, unable to catch hold of its elusive prey. In this exhilarating game of cat and mouse, Michael's skill and quick thinking kept him one step ahead. With a burst of determination, Michael flapped his wings with all his might, propelling himself higher and higher into the sky. As he ascended, the force of gravity became an enemy to the skeletal dragon. The higher they flew, the harder it became for the dragon to maintain its grip on the physical realm. Bones began to dislodge from the dragon's skeletal form, cascading down like macabre rain. The dragon's once mighty frame showed signs of strain, its movements becoming sluggish and erratic. It struggled to keep pace with Michael, who now circled above it, observing the dragon's plight with a mix of amusement and triumph. Michael's voice echoed through the air, laced with a mocking tone. "Is this the extent of your power?" The skeletal dragon emitted a low, guttural growl, a mix of frustration and rage. But its attempts to retaliate were feeble, its once powerful flames reduced to weak flickers. It thrashed and flapped its remaining bony wings, desperately trying to maintain its altitude, but to no avail. Michael continued to taunt the dragon, reveling in his advantage. "Come on, just a little further." The dragon's weakened form trembled under the strain, bones cracking and splintering as it struggled to stay afloat. Michael's eyes glinted with a mixture of satisfaction and confidence as he watched the dragon's futile struggle. "Now witness the true power of a god," Michael declared, his voice carrying an air of superiority. "Hi everyone, I hope everyone is doing great. Recently, I've told by some readers how they are affected by the price increases in their country. I know that because I have experience too. So because of that, I decided to reduce the prices for the priv tiers. Note that if I had other means for an income, I would greatly reduce the prices, but since it wasn't the case and the author have to eat, I reduced the prices as much as I could. These are the price differences. Current price 5 chap priv equals 450 coins, 10 chap priv equals 1000 coins, 15 chap priv equals 1400 coins, 20 chap priv equals 2000 coins. New price 5 chap priv equals 400 coins, 10 chap priv equals 950 coins, 20 chap priv equals 1650 coins, 25 chap priv equals 2100 coins. On top of that, I will add some discount percentage. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Chapter 1008. Forecrux schemes. As the dragon and Michael ascended higher into the sky, the world below appeared minuscule, mere dots in the vast expanse. Michael's mind raced, contemplating his options for combating the formidable skeletal beast. He realized that his dark swords would be insufficient against such a massive opponent, as the dragon's skeletal frame seemed impervious to their piercing strikes. In a moment of clarity, Michael's hand instinctively reached for his ultimate weapon, the Doomsbringer. With a fierce determination, he summoned the ancient black warhammer, engraved with intricate runes that glowed with a sinister aura. Its formidable head, infused with an ancient ice core, promised the power to summon intense frost and unleash the wrath of doom upon his enemies. The Doomsbringer materialized in Michael's grip, its weight reassuring and commanding respect. He tightened his grasp around the handle, feeling the surge of power resonating within him. The runes on the warhammer pulsed with an icy blue light, responding to Michael's unwavering resolve. With the Doomsbringer in hand, Michael's gaze locked onto the skeletal dragon, now struggling to maintain its altitude amidst the thinning air. He knew that this was the moment to unleash the full might of the warhammer and bring forth its icy wrath against the formidable foe. Resolve burning in his eyes, Michael made a daring move, closing his wings midair and allowing gravity to take hold. He began descending rapidly, utilizing the force of his fall to gather momentum and unleash an even more devastating attack. As Michael plummeted towards the skeletal dragon, the monstrosity sensed his descent and eagerly opened its jaw wider, preparing to devour him whole. But Michael was not so easily consumed by the beast's insatiable hunger. With a mighty swing of the Doomsbringer, Michael unleashed a cataclysmic blow upon the dragon's gaping maw. The clash between the warhammer and the skeletal jaws reverberated through the air, a thunderous sound that echoed across the expanse of the sky. The impact was tremendous. Bones shattered and splintered under the force of Michael's attack, the dragon recoiling from the sheer power of the blow. The skeletal beast was pushed back, its immense form staggered by the sheer might of the Doomsbringer. The resounding collision sent shockwaves rippling through the air, accompanied by an otherworldly howl that pierced the sky. Fragments of shattered bone were scattered like fallen stars, creating a macabre spectacle against the backdrop of the darkened heavens. Michael, his grip unwavering on the Doomsbringer, stood defiant amidst the chaos. The warhammer's icy aura intensified, surrounding him in an ethereal mist, as if the very essence of frost was drawn to his presence. He surveyed the aftermath of his powerful strike, a glimmer of satisfaction dancing in his eyes. But the battle was far from over. The skeletal dragon, though wounded, still possessed an unyielding determination. Its hollow sockets glowed with an ominous light, and its fragmented form began to slowly reassemble, drawing upon the dark energies that sustained its existence. Summoning the frigid powers imbued within the Doomsbringer, Michael focused his energy and channeled it into a concentrated blast of icy frost. From the warhammer's enchanted head, a torrent of intense cold erupted, streaking towards the skeletal dragon with blinding speed. The freezing blast engulfed the dragon, coating its bones in a layer of frost that crackled with an ethereal glow. The dragon's movements became sluggish as the biting cold sapped its vitality, hindering its ability to retaliate effectively. With lightning-fast agility, Michael maneuvered around the aerial battlefield, his movements a blur as he swung the Doomsbringer with calculated precision. Each strike connected with bone-shattering force, causing the dragon's skeletal structure to splinter and crumble under the onslaught. Fragmented bones scattered through the air like a ghastly rain, leaving a trail of destruction in their wake. The skeletal dragon, once an imposing behemoth, now trembled under the relentless assault, its form gradually disintegrating. In a display of unwavering control, Michael gracefully leaped atop the dragon's crumbling skull, a calm and determined expression etched upon his face. His eyes met the fading glimmer within the dragon's hollow sockets, and with a composed voice he uttered, "Let's finish this." The battle seemed to hang in suspended animation for a moment as Michael's words resounded through the air. The skeletal dragon, its essence fading, responded with a feeble attempt at defiance, its shattered jaw twitching in a futile snarl. Knowing that victory was within reach, Michael raised the Doomsbringer high above his head, channeling the last reserves of his power into a final devastating strike. The warhammer crackled with unleashed energy, resonating with Michael's unwavering determination. With a resounding impact, the Doomsbringer struck the dragon's fractured skull, causing the remaining bones to crack and shatter. As the skeletal structure splintered under the force of the blow, Michael swiftly followed up with another strike, this time driving the pointed head of the warhammer deep into the dragon's skull. The Doomsbringer's sharp tip hooked into the fractured bone, securing Michael's grip and ensuring that he remained firmly attached to the dragon's fading form. Sensing the dragon's imminent demise, Michael summoned forth the power of the dark flames. Black flames danced and flickered around his clenched fist as he pressed the infernal fire against the skeletal dragon's head. The dark flames eagerly consumed the skeletal remains, their scorching heat intensifying with each passing moment. The dragon, now engulfed in the swirling vortex of black flames, began its descent through the air. It resembled a burning meteor hurtling toward the ground, leaving behind a trail of smoke and ash in its wake. The once mighty skeletal dragon, now reduced to a charred husk, continued its descent, propelled by the relentless force of gravity. The black flames danced and twisted around its skeletal frame, devouring every trace of its existence with an insatiable hunger. As the dragon descended, the air crackled with the sound of its fiery demise. The dark flames, fueled by the dragon's bones, illuminated the surrounding sky with an eerie crimson glow, casting an otherworldly ambience upon the scene. I think you should take a look at the burning dragon left a trail of destruction in its wake, scorching the air and leaving a smoldering path across the horizon. It was a sight both awe-inspiring and terrifying, a testament to the power wielded by Michael and the cataclysmic force of the Doomsbringer. As the dragon's descent reached its climax, its form disintegrated into embers and ashes, dissipating into the winds. The once formidable skeletal beast had been reduced to nothing but fading echoes of its former glory. As the remnants of the skeletal dragon descended, smoldering and reduced to ashes, they made contact with the ground with a resounding thud. The impact sent tremors rippling through the earth, a testament to the immense power that had been unleashed upon the once mighty beast. Seizing the moment, Michael wasted no time in venting his fury upon the dragon's shattered head. With a series of thunderous stomps, he brought his boot crashing down upon the charred remains, obliterating any trace of the skeletal creature that had dared to challenge him. Each stomp reverberated through the air, a declaration of his dominance and a symbol of his triumph. The remnants of bone crunched and crumbled beneath his relentless assault, further reducing the dragon's remains to mere dust and fragments. As the echoes of his final stomp faded into the distance, Michael stood amidst the aftermath of his victory, his chest heaving with exertion and his eyes ablaze with an unyielding resolve. It was then that he called out to the heavens, his voice carrying the weight of his defiance. "Forcrux," he bellowed, his voice echoing through the void. "I told you to stay away from my way." His words hung in the air, a challenge issued to the deity who had sought to interfere with his ambitions. The wind carried his voice across the desolate landscape, a proclamation that reverberated with unyielding determination. Michael's gaze swept across the battleground, his eyes locking onto the scattered remains of the dragon. With a mixture of satisfaction and warning, he muttered under his breath, "Consider this a warning." As the dust settled and the echoes of the battle faded, an unsettling stillness engulfed the pocket dimension. The remnants of the skeletal dragon had vanished, leaving no trace behind as if it had never existed. The air itself seemed to hold its breath, suspended in an eerie silence that sent shivers down Michael's spine. In the midst of this surreal calm, a sudden manifestation shattered the tranquility. An ethereal black crow materialized in the air before Michael, its presence ominous and foreboding. Its feathers glistened with an otherworldly darkness, and its eyes gleamed with an intelligence beyond that of a mere bird. With a gruff, devilish voice that seemed to carry echoes from the deepest recesses of the underworld, the crow spoke, its words cutting through the silence like a sharp blade. "You haven't disappointed me, God of Darkness." With a calm demeanor, Michael gazed at the crow before him, addressing it by name. "Forcrux, I presume," he stated, his voice steady as he awaited the crow's response. Amusement danced in the crow's eyes, a glimmer of intrigue at witnessing the God of Darkness in action. It reminisced about its previous discussion with Andor, the god of time and space, when Andor sought Forcrux's assistance in reanimating the corpse of Vidora, the three-headed Hydra and former companion of the previous Dark Lord. The ethereal crow, embodying the essence of Forcrux, acknowledged Michael's actions. "You have slain two of my creations today," it uttered, its words carrying a sense of authority and understanding. Forcrux, as the creator of this pocket dimension, possessed the ability to manifest within it, drawing upon the concentrated death energy that permeated the realm. Despite the barrier imposed by the previous Dark Lord, Forcrux could manifest itself in its crow form within places where the threads of death were tightly woven. Michael maintained his composure, unyielding in the face of the god before him. He met Forcrux's gaze with unwavering resolve, unburdened by fear, for if Forcrux had intended harm, it could have enacted it already. The absence of such aggression suggested that either Forcrux lacked the means to harm him or harbored ulterior motives. The God of Darkness spoke, his voice measured and calm. "That orc tried to steal something that belonged to me," he explained, his eyes momentarily glancing at the minuscule remnants of bone dust scattered on the ground. He returned his focus to the crow, unmoved by the god's presence. "And as for this dragon, it was merely an obstacle in my path," Michael continued, his tone unwavering. Despite standing before a god, he remained resolute. The Dark Lord's confidence stemmed from the knowledge that if Forcrux truly desired his downfall, it would have already transpired. Thus, the god's motives remained cloaked in uncertainty. However, Forcrux's next words hinted at a greater threat, one that surpassed the demon corpses sealed within the coveted coffins. Michael's curiosity was piqued as he sought to unravel the enigma before him. "And what, pray tell, might that be?" he inquired, his voice betraying a glimmer of intrigue. Forcrux posed a thought-provoking question to Michael, his voice laced with a touch of intrigue. "Have you ever pondered the fate of your companion, Vidora, in your previous timeline?" The god of darkness furrowed his brow, taken aback by the sudden revelation that Forcrux delivered so calmly. Michael's silence betrayed his lack of awareness, prompting Forcrux to enlighten him further. "It seems you are in the dark, and rightly so. Allow me to expand your understanding, god of darkness. In this present timeline, your former pet Hydra has been unearthed by Andor. The god of time and space intends to resurrect the creature, harnessing its power to wage war against you." The weight of Forcrux's words settled upon Michael, his mind racing to grasp the implications of such a revelation. Tension filled the air as Michael contemplated the magnitude of this newfound threat. Unbeknownst to Michael, Forcrux, the god of necromancy, had been covertly aiding in the resurrection of Vidora's corpse. However, Forcrux harbored no allegiance toward Andor or the god of darkness. As a deity who had been shunned by the pantheon and the majority of gods in the realm, Forcrux's loyalty rested solely with himself. In the impending conflict between the god of time and space and the god of darkness, Forcrux saw an opportunity to align himself with both sides, utilizing their bitter rivalry to further his own agenda. Chapter 1009. Harry and Layla perched atop a serene mountaintop. A young boy with golden locks sat amidst a sprawling meadow, his gaze fixed upon the breathtaking canvas of colors painted across the sky as the sun gracefully descended. The hues of orange, pink, and purple melded together, casting a warm glow that bathed the world in a tranquil embrace. Deep in thought, Harry displayed a pensive expression beyond his tender age. Lost in contemplation, he seemed oblivious to the approach of a graceful woman carrying a bowl. This woman, none other than Layla Alden, quietly settled beside him on the grass, her presence a gentle interruption to his musings. "Harry, you haven't had a proper meal today," Layla gently reminded him, her voice carrying a blend of concern and affection. Startled by his mother's voice, Harry blinked and turned his attention to her. His young mind wrestled with a pressing question that weighed heavily upon him. With a mixture of curiosity and innocence, he ventured to ask, "Mom, why does everyone say that Dad is evil? Is he truly a bad person?" Rather than displaying shock or surprise, Layla sighed, weariness etched upon her face. She had grown accustomed to hearing such disparaging remarks aimed at Ghost, the Dark Lord who had captured the attention and scrutiny of all of Mazeroth. What Layla considered a stroke of luck was the fact that nobody knew Harry's true lineage, that he was the son of the feared Dark Lord himself. "Harry, I've told you before, you're still too young to comprehend the complexities of the world fully," Layla replied, her tone gentle yet tinged with caution. She reached out and tenderly turned his face toward her own, knowing that, inadvertently, Harry had inherited the same piercing gaze that had defined his father, Ghost. Desperation tugged at Harry's voice as he pleaded with his mother, "Please, Mom, I really need to know." Layla observed her son's earnestness and couldn't help but feel a pang of sympathy. The weight of the world seemed to rest upon his young shoulders, burdened by the judgment and fear surrounding his father's reputation. "Why this sudden urgency, Harry?" Layla inquired, her concern etched in her voice. Harry's voice quivered with a mix of apprehension and vulnerability as he revealed his innermost fears. "I can't bear it anymore, Mom. Everywhere I go, the children label him as the big bad evil. Knowing that he is my father, I'm terrified that I might inherit his darkness." The raw emotion in Harry's words struck Layla deeply, melting away the coldness that had enveloped her heart. Moved by her son's distress, she instinctively drew closer, enfolding him in a comforting embrace that exuded motherly warmth. Gently, Layla reached for a morsel of honey-glazed rice from the bowl beside them, her hand moving with tenderness and care. She lifted the morsel to Harry's lips, offering sustenance and affection in a single gesture. "Harry, my love, your father is not the monster that others perceive him to be," Layla assured him, her voice laced with sincerity and love. Harry's voice trembled with uncertainty as he raised another question. "But Mom, I witnessed him. I saw him take Aunt Edith's life. People say he has caused harm to countless others. What if I become like him?" Layla tenderly brushed away a few lingering grains of rice from the corner of Harry's lips before continuing to feed him, a gesture filled with love and reassurance. "Aunt Edith's actions were clouded by her grief and anger, Harry," Layla explained gently. "Her choices led to someone trying to harm you. Your father is the kind of man who will go to any lengths to protect those he cares about and ensure justice is served. Harry pondered his mother's words, chewing his food thoughtfully before swallowing. Despite his lack of appetite, the warmth and affection emanating from his mother's smile made the nourishment go down easier. But Mom, if he truly cares about us, why isn't he here? Harry's voice quivered with longing and confusion. Layla's eyes brimmed with understanding as she caressed her son's cheek, her voice filled with tenderness. It's not that he's not with us, Harry. It's that we are not with him. You must know, my son, he didn't leave us. I made the choice to separate from him when he asked me to come with him. As Harry's shock began to subside, Layla set aside the empty bowl, realizing that she couldn't withhold the truth any longer. Her son was growing rapidly, both physically and mentally, and she understood the importance of providing him with answers. She refused to let the world's perceptions shape Harry's thoughts, determined not to let him be swayed by external influences. He truly wanted us to be with him, Layla confirmed, her voice filled with sincerity, causing Harry's eyes to well up with tears of relief. In that moment, he realized that his father hadn't abandoned him, contrary to what he had believed. Harry's trust and love for his mother were unwavering, and when she assured him that his father wasn't the embodiment of evil as the world claimed, he wholeheartedly believed her. Curiosity still tugged at Harry's heart, and he couldn't help but ask, "But why didn't you agree to go with him?" Layla let out a sigh, her gaze drifting toward the distant horizon. "I made that choice because I didn't want us to become entangled in the war between the world and your father," Layla explained, her voice tinged with a touch of sadness. "Sometimes, leaving your loved ones is a way of loving them, Harry." Harry's brow furrowed with contemplation, and he continued to seek clarity. Professor Rake once said that if everyone calls a man evil, then he must be evil. So why is everyone fighting against Dad if he is a good man? And if he were to harm everyone, even his own family, wouldn't that only prove the world right? You've always told me that we cannot fight darkness with more darkness, Mom. Layla's heart swelled with pride as she realized just how much Harry had grown. The image of him as a spirit child, ethereal and delicate, flashed in her mind. Now, standing before her, he was no longer a child or a baby she used to carry in her arms. He was a young man seeking truth and grappling with complex questions, and it was her duty to guide him through this labyrinth of uncertainty. Layla took a deep breath, her eyes fixed on Harry's searching gaze. It was time to shed light on the truth, to reveal the complexities of their circumstances. Your father, Harry, once fought tirelessly to change the world's perception of him. But as time went on, he realized the futility of that battle. Instead, he chose to embrace the label placed upon him and set out to change the world itself. It's a fight he's winning, my dear. He'd rather be feared by everyone than allow them to pose a threat to him. But that doesn't make him evil. Your father has endured unimaginable suffering, more than anyone I've ever known. No one has the right to pass judgment on him. If they call him evil, then the world itself must bear that burden. Layla understood Ghost's plight intimately, for she too had been caught in the web of difficult choices, trying to do what was best for their loved ones. She couldn't forget the words of Wulfric, which had weighed heavily on her decision to leave Ghost. The safest place for you and Harry is within the enemy lines, Layla. If the Skyhall knew they had you both within their grasp, they wouldn't harm you. But if you chose to go with Ghost, they would hunt you down to hurt him. Those words echoed in her mind, reminding her of the risks they faced. The weight of her decision to leave Ghost behind had been a heavy burden on Layla's heart. But in her mind, it was the choice that would ensure their safety, even if it meant being apart from the man they loved. Mom, is it true that Dad used to be a student in Mazeroth? Harry's curiosity piqued as he leaned in closer, eager to learn more about his father. The rumors and whispers from other children had intrigued him, and he wanted to hear the truth from his mother's perspective. Yes, it's true, Harry, Layla confirmed, a fond smile playing on her lips as she reminisced. Your father was not only a student, but he was also considered one of the brightest. Professor Lane, who was known for his alchemy expertise, took a special interest in Ghost's abilities. They had a unique bond like mentor and protege. Your father's talent as an alchemist surpassed all expectations. He was a true master of his craft. Harry's eyes widened in awe. He had always heard stories of his father's notorious deeds, but this new revelation sparked a sense of pride within him. He wanted to know more about the man behind the reputation. But, Mom, Harry continued, why does everyone only focus on the bad things? Are there no good deeds that Dad has done? Layla's smile grew warmer as she gently brushed a strand of hair away from Harry's face. Oh, my dear boy, the world often forgets about the goodness in people when darkness overshadows them. Your father's true nature goes beyond the rumors and fear surrounding him. There is a side to him that many have not seen. She paused for a moment, her eyes glimmering with fond memories. Did you know that there is a small town called Bradford? Your father single-handedly transformed it from a struggling fishing village into a thriving community. The people there look up to him as their savior. He used his alchemical knowledge and resources to bring prosperity and happiness to their lives. Does that sound like something an evil man would do? Harry's eyes widened with amazement. He never imagined his father as a hero or a bringer of happiness. This newfound knowledge shattered the image the world had painted of Ghost. Dad walks the line between good and bad, my love, Layla continued, her voice filled with affection. He is a complex individual, driven by his own sense of justice and determination. Most people in this world can be easily categorized as either good or bad, but your father defies such simplistic labels. He seeks to protect those he cares about and fights for a cause he believes in, even if it means facing the world's judgment. Harry pondered his mother's words, trying to reconcile the conflicting images of his father in his mind. He realized that he had only scratched the surface of understanding who Ghost truly was. The stories of his kindness and brilliance began to overshadow the tales of darkness and fear. Curiosity still burning in his eyes, Harry couldn't help but ask another question. Mom, Sister Johanna and Nerida said something about you trying to kill Dad once. Is that true? Those two can't seem to keep a secret, Layla sighed, her voice filled with both amusement and exasperation. After a moment, she composed herself and met Harry's gaze. Women can sometimes get really angry, Harry. It's like a storm inside them, and it's best for a man to agree with them even if they haven't done anything wrong, just to keep the peace. But your dad was different. He didn't back down easily. When we had an argument, he stood his ground and actually made a lot of sense, Layla explained with a warm smile. Harry's young mind struggled to comprehend his mother's words. He furrowed his brow and tilted his head in confusion. So, you tried to hurt him when he made sense? He asked, seeking clarification. Layla chuckled softly, realizing the need to simplify her explanation. Well, when a man makes sense in an argument, sometimes a woman might react by crying or even wanting to hurt him. It's like a strange rule, she said, trying to find a light-hearted tone. Harry's eyes widened in surprise. He couldn't quite grasp the idea that someone could respond with violence when faced with sense and reason. It seemed illogical to him. But that doesn't make sense, Mom. Why would someone want to hurt another person when they're making sense? He asked innocently. Layla's laughter filled the air as she saw the genuine confusion on Harry's face. She realized that trying to simplify the explanation further was necessary. You're right, my dear. It doesn't make much sense, does it? Sometimes, people can react in unpredictable ways, even to things that seem logical. It's a quirk of human nature, I suppose, she replied, her tone gentle and understanding. Harry nodded, accepting his mother's explanation. He may not fully comprehend the intricacies of adult interactions, but he trusted his mother's words. After all, she had always been his guiding light, the one who offered love and reassurance in even the most confusing times. The conversation faded into a comfortable silence as mother and son sat together, the fading light of the day casting a warm glow around them. Harry felt a sense of peace settling within him, knowing that even in the midst of complexity, his mother would always be there to offer guidance and love. Chapter 10:10. The Fallen God's arc begins. Meanwhile, Khaleesi stood in her grand hall, a space that reflected her strategic mind and housed her vast collection of knowledge. The round table at the center was adorned with maps, scrolls and intricate models of battle formations, serving as a constant reminder of the war they waged in the shadows. The walls were lined with shelves holding countless books, each one meticulously chosen to hone her tactical prowess. A grand sofa set provided a comfortable spot for contemplation, while a board displayed a mosaic of news clippings and portraits, a visual representation of the Dark Lord's deeds and their resistance against him. As Khaleesi studied the detailed map of the Sea Realm, plotting their next move against the Dark Lord, Evan gracefully entered the room, surrounded by a faint ethereal glow. Ever since Evan's body was infused with divine grace, he had become akin to a god himself. His powers had skyrocketed, enabling him to combat the Dark Lord's minions. However, their adversaries had retreated into hiding after the Dark Lord mysteriously vanished from his own wedding. Lady Khaleesi, I bring news regarding Noah. Evan approached the round table and joined Sales's side. Sales's eyes lit up with anticipation. Did you manage to convince Noah to join our cause against the Dark Lord? She inquired, her voice filled with hope. Evan's head drooped slightly, and a trace of sadness flickered in his eyes. He felt deep sympathy for Noah, who had tragically lost his beloved wife at the hands of the Dark Lord, who happened to be his own twin brother. As if that wasn't enough, Noah's father had been imprisoned by the Sky Hall, and his sister Rowena Winston remained missing. Rumors circulated about Rowena's fate, some suggesting she had perished, while others claimed she had disappeared after learning the shocking truth of her relation to the Dark Lord. Khaleesi had informed Evan that even if Rowena were to resurface, the Sky Hall would undoubtedly punish her for her actions during the Nagaland War. Despite learning of the Dark Lord's identity as her younger brother, Rowena had fearlessly placed herself in harm's way, shielding him from a lethal energy beam during the conflict. However, in the eyes of the Sky Hall, her courageous act was deemed treasonous. If she were still alive, the Sky Hall would surely seek retribution, regardless of her esteemed position as the Holy Maiden. The weight of these revelations weighed heavily on Evan's heart as he relayed the news to Khaleesi. He understood the immense burden Noah carried, the anguish of losing a loved one and the relentless search for answers and justice. The Shadow Clan's mission to overthrow the Dark Lord had become even more crucial, not only for their cause but for the sake of Noah, Rowena, and countless others affected by the Dark Lord's reign of terror. We should allow Noah some time to process everything. How did he appear? Was he filled with rage or did he manage to maintain his composure? Saelsis' inquiry, though seemingly unusual, held a purposeful significance. Evan understood that Saelsis' questions always held deeper meaning. Surprisingly, he seemed remarkably calm. It was as if the weight of losing his wife and family hadn't taken its toll on him, Evan replied. Noah's demeanor and how he conducted himself left Evan taken aback. He had anticipated a furious outburst from Noah upon discovering the fate of his beloved Alicia. Yet, instead of succumbing to anger, Noah had chosen seclusion atop a solitary mountain, appearing composed and serene. Khaleesi couldn't help but feel a sense of satisfaction upon hearing Evan's response. However, she remained outwardly expressionless, maintaining her enigmatic demeanor. A man who remains calm even in the face of anger is far more dangerous than one who outwardly displays his rage, Khaleesi stated, her words carrying a weight of wisdom. Evan nodded, acknowledging the truth in Saelsis' statement. There was an unsettling power in someone who could contain their anger and channel it with purpose and precision. Noah's tranquility in the midst of such profound loss hinted at a depth of resolve and determination that could prove formidable in their fight against the Dark Lord. Regardless of whether Noah chooses to join our cause or not, I am certain he will stand against the Dark Lord. As a man, he will seek vengeance for his wife, Evan expressed, his conviction unwavering. Khaleesi nodded in agreement, knowing the deep well of anger that must be brewing within Noah, especially considering the Dark Lord was his own twin brother. Returning her focus to the map of the Sea Realm, Khaleesi contemplated their next course of action. Evan, I need you to venture into the Sea Realm and investigate the recent energy radiation that Hammond's contraption detected, Khaleesi instructed, her voice steady and determined. Evan was well aware that since the fallen gods had regained their graces, one of Hammond's inventions had detected a powerful surge of energy emanating from the Sea Realm. Reports from Saelsis spies revealed that the Water God Hall had also discovered this anomaly and dispatched a team deep into the depths of the ocean to investigate. Keep in mind that the Water God Hall's team may pose some resistance. Try to handle the situation peacefully, but if necessary dispose of them, Khaleesi added, emphasizing the importance of securing the energy source before the Dark Lord could lay claim to it. Leaning against the table, Evan studied the map, absorbing the details. Khaleesi continued her explanation, her voice tinged with a sense of urgency. I have a strong feeling that this energy radiation is somehow connected to the Dark Lord. We cannot allow him to obtain it. As long as the Dark Lord remains below the heavenly stage of power, we can hold our ground with the aid of the fallen gods. Evan's brows furrowed in concern as he posed a crucial question. What if the Dark Lord surpasses the heavenly stage? What will happen then? He inquired, fully aware of the formidable might possessed by the Dark Lord, the God of Darkness. I think you should take a look at Panda's novel. Khaleesi's gaze turned solemn, her voice tinged with a hint of worry. If that happens, the fallen gods will stand no chance against the Dark Lord. Only Noah, with his unique abilities and determination, will have a fighting chance. However, even then, Noah will require something truly extraordinary to defeat the Dark Lord. The weight of their mission hung heavily in the air, as Khaleesi and Evan exchanged a knowing glance. The stakes were higher than ever, and the impending confrontation with the Dark Lord loomed ominously on the horizon. Saelsis' mind raced with strategic plans and contingencies, recognizing the crucial role they played in preventing the Dark Lord from obtaining the mysterious energy source. The fate of their world rested in their hands, and they would stop at nothing to ensure that darkness would not prevail. We must also consider the possibility that the Dark Lord has spies within the Sea Realm. Time is of the essence, Evan. You need to depart today, Celici stated with a sense of urgency, emphasizing the need for swift action. Before Evan embarked on his mission, he felt compelled to address a pressing concern regarding Princess Zanali and the situation in Nagaland. Evan couldn't help but question whether leaving Zanali in Nagaland was the best course of action, given the perilous circumstances. Furthermore, he wondered if there was any way to heal Zanali's broken meridians, a consequence of the Dark Queen's treacherous actions. Lady Celici, is it truly wise to leave Princess Zanali in Nagaland? And is there any possibility of restoring her meridians? Evan inquired, his voice tinged with genuine concern. While he respected Sailsis' unwavering dedication to their cause, he couldn't shake the feeling that Zanali was being sacrificed in the process. Having already lost her husband at the hands of Gaia, who happened to be both the Dark Lord's wife and Sailsis' stepdaughter, Evan couldn't help but worry for Zanali's well-being. The revelation that Gaia, the Dark Queen, had slain her own father and shattered Zanali's meridians had shocked many, leaving a sense of disbelief in its wake. Pandus novel. Calm Celici took a moment to gather her thoughts, her expression composed yet carrying a subtle hint of sadness. She understood the underlying concerns and the weight of her decision regarding Zanali's fate. The kingdom is in capable hands, Evan. As for the Dark Lord, he has no reason to harm Zanali, Celici reassured, her words intended to provide solace. However, deep down even Zanali, her own daughter, was but a pawn in her intricate game against the Dark Lord. Celici harbored a hidden agenda, using Zanali's relationship with Noah to stoke his flames of anger and vengeance further. Celici desired for Noah to be consumed by his fury before facing the Dark Lord, ensuring that no remnants of brotherly affection would sway him. She knew all too well that the Dark Lord would show no mercy towards Noah, and Celici wanted him to be prepared for the ruthless battle ahead. Unbeknownst to Evan, Sailsis' motives remained shrouded in the depths of her complex strategy. The sacrifices she made for the greater good weighed heavily on her conscience, but she remained resolute in her pursuit to dismantle the Dark Lord's reign. For now, Zanali's safety rested on the delicate edge of their plans, an unavoidable casualty in the battle against darkness. I have faith in your judgment, Lady Celici, Evan conveyed before departing from the Grand Hall, leaving Celici to contemplate the intricate web of her plans. As Evan made his way out, the ethereal form of Andreas materialized before Celici, their clandestine alliance continuing to take shape. Andreas, it's time to make our move with Noah. Let us ignite the long-awaited clash between the two brothers, Celici declared with a mischievous grin. Andreas' face mirrored her cunning expression, fully aware of the manipulative path they were about to tread. Remember, Andreas, you must conceal your true identity from Noah. You cannot reveal that you are allied with me or that you are not his mentor, Celici cautioned, emphasizing the need for secrecy. Andreas, the second soul piece of the enigmatic mentor, simply shrugged in response. Trust me, Celici. I know exactly what I'm doing. Noah teeters on the precipice of losing himself to his seething rage. I understand his emotions all too well. All we need to do is fan the flames, the second soul piece of Andreas assured, exuding a sense of confidence in their calculated maneuvers. Sailsis' grin widened as she contemplated the upcoming chess match of manipulation and hidden agendas. The stakes were high, but she was willing to gamble everything in her quest to dismantle the Dark Lord's dominion. Andreas, her steadfast ally, shared her determination, both of them fully committed to pushing Noah toward his ultimate destiny. Before you depart, ensure that Alara remains in Hammond's company at all times. You understand the vital role Hammond and his intelligence play in our mission to bring down the Dark Lord, Celici instructed Andreas, emphasizing the importance of protecting their valuable asset. Andreas nodded in agreement, his ethereal form fading away, leaving Celici alone in the Grand Hall. As she contemplated her next strategic moves against the Dark Lord, unbeknownst to her, a treacherous twist was already in motion. The energy radiation she had dispatched Evan to investigate was not what it seemed, it was a seed of darkness, and the Dark Lord himself was swiftly closing in to claim it. Little did Celici know that her plans were about to be upended by a malevolent force, setting in motion a chain of events that would challenge her every strategy. The Dark Lord's relentless pursuit of power and domination threatened to unravel everything she had meticulously built. With the seed of darkness at the center of this unfolding calamity, Sales's intricate web of alliances and calculations hung in the balance. In other words, the Dark Lord was on his way to get the Seed of Darkness. Chapter 10:11. Lord Information's True Identity. Lord Information, the wise and serene elf with flowing blonde hair, sat in his study behind a magnificent mahogany table adorned with flickering candles and delicate holders. The room was a sanctuary of knowledge, with book racks lining the walls, filled to the brim with ancient tomes, weathered scrolls and carefully preserved parchments. The shelves overflowed with the accumulated wisdom of countless generations. In this sanctuary of knowledge, Lord Information was engrossed in his studies, surrounded by a sea of scrolls that he meticulously perused. His sharp eyes danced across the ancient text, absorbing the profound knowledge and insights contained within. As his fingertips delicately unfurled each scroll, the room suddenly quivered, a faint tremor that only he could perceive. Lord Information, attuned to the subtle vibrations of the world, sensed the disturbance and paused. With a composed demeanor, he tapped his slender fingers upon the smooth mahogany table in a rhythm known only to him, a coded language between him and the enchantments that surrounded him. The table responded, and two intricate runes resembling eyes glimmered with ethereal light. As the runes sparked to life, the atmosphere in the room shifted. Hidden mechanisms whirred into action, revealing a small potion nestled within the heart of the table. The vial glinted with a silvery radiance, catching the flickering candlelight. Lord Information's calm gaze fixed upon the glistening orb as its secrets were unveiled. With a gentle yet purposeful touch, Lord Information reached out, his fingertips hovering above the gleaming orb. His aura of wisdom and calmness remained unshaken, even as anticipation coursed through his veins. The room was hushed, the only sound the soft rustling of parchment and the beating of his own heart. The room reverberated with a subtle hum as the silver orb emitted a soft, melodic tone. Lord Information, his heart brimming with reverence, rose from his chair and gracefully sank to one knee upon the floor. "Humble servant of the divine goddess Seraphine, I offer my greetings," Lord Information spoke, his head respectfully bowed. Unbeknownst to the world, Lord Information was among the hidden devotees of Seraphine, the goddess of information. Seraphine's power derived from the vast accumulation of knowledge provided by her followers. Within an intricate network of information, Seraphine acted as the central hub. Whenever her devotees sought knowledge, she would gather information shared by others and provide it to those in need. This unique connection allowed Lord Information to possess exclusive and invaluable insights that eluded the grasp of ordinary mortals. "Arise, Thelian," Seraphine's voice resonated from the luminous orb, addressing Lord Information by his true name, Thelian Whisperwind. Only Seraphine and Thelian himself knew this deeply personal connection. "Andor, the High God, has granted me permission to aid Noah Winston, Thelian. It is time for the long-awaited meeting of the two brothers upon the battlefield," Seraphine declared. Thelian, upon hearing these words from his goddess, felt a shiver cascade down his spine. He had witnessed the immense power wielded by the Dark Lord, and the devastating aftermath that unfolded whenever he clashed with the mortal realm. The thought of the Dark Lord, a god in his own right, engaging in a cataclysmic battle with his twin brother Noah, also a god, sent chills through Thelian's soul. The Dark Lord has acquired 2 god-killing arrows forged by Jianghu, and Noah possesses 2 as well. Unfortunately, the Dark Lord has obtained the upper hand in this regard. To vanquish the Dark Lord, Noah must wield all 8 arrows at his disposal. Since acquiring the Dark Lord's arrows is not within our grasp, we must assist Noah in locating the rest while the Dark Lord is absent from the mortal realm, Seraphine urgently conveyed, her voice tinged with a sense of urgency. Thelian listened intently, understanding the critical importance of their mission. The fate of the world hung in the balance, and it was his divine duty to guide Noah on this perilous path. With Seraphine's guidance and the wisdom he had amassed, Thelian would ensure that Noah possessed the tools necessary to confront the Dark Lord, their fateful encounter drawing ever closer. "Now, Thelian, I shall entrust you with the vital information regarding the possible locations of the remaining god-killing arrows. It is imperative that you personally deliver this map into Noah's hands. I am well aware that the Dark Lord's minions are keeping a watchful eye on you, but you must not falter in this crucial task," Seraphine declared. As she spoke, a golden map adorned with glowing points materialized on the table beside the shimmering orb, illuminating the room with its radiant presence. "Divine Goddess, please forgive your humble devotee for daring to question your wisdom, but as far as my understanding goes, Noah will be unable to defeat the Dark Lord without all 8 god-killing arrows. With the Dark Lord already in possession of 2 arrows, Noah's chances of victory seem slim, Thelion voiced his concerns. Seraphine responded with unwavering serenity, addressing Thelion's query. The same holds true for the Dark Lord. Without all 8 arrows, he too will be unable to vanquish Noah. Thus, the outcome of their battle will depend on Noah's skill and resourcefulness in somehow wresting the Dark Lord's 2 arrows from his grasp, thereby harnessing the combined power of all 8 to deliver the final blow, Seraphine explained. In which realm will this ultimate confrontation take place, divine goddess? Thelion inquired, his curiosity piqued. If everything transpires according to Andor's plan, the final battle shall unfold in the realm of Aquilon, Seraphine revealed, her words resonating with a sense of destiny and inevitability. Thus far, you have displayed remarkable skill in maintaining your guise as an information merchant. Neither the Dark Lord nor Noah suspects your true allegiance to me. I implore you to continue concealing this fact for as long as possible, even after delivering the map to Noah. Should the Dark Lord emerge triumphant in his battle against Noah, only the divine pantheon would possess the power to vanquish him. However, given the current circumstances, the pantheon is unable to intervene directly in the mortal realm. Therefore, it is crucial that all our devoted followers remain vigilant and keep a watchful eye on the Dark Lord for as long as we can, Seraphine advised, her voice resonating with a sense of urgency and caution. I think you should take a look at Panda's novel. Nila and Alvaro soared through the vast expanse of the evening sky, their wings carrying them gracefully over the world below. The sun began its descent, casting a warm golden glow across the horizon, painting the sky in hues of pink and orange. Wispy clouds scattered across the canvas, creating a breathtaking tapestry against the fading light. As they flew, Nila and Alvaro looked down upon the sprawling forest that stretched out beneath them. The dense canopy of trees, adorned in shades of emerald and jade, appeared like a lush carpet blanketing the earth. Shafts of sunlight filtered through the leaves, creating dappled patterns on the forest floor. As Nila and Alvaro soared through the vast sky, a heavy silence hung between them. Alvaro, who worked as a double agent for the Dark Lord, felt a growing unease in the absence of conversation. The risks he took by serving both sides weighed heavily on his mind. Among the members of Noah's elite unit, Nila's unwavering loyalty to their leader made Alvaro particularly cautious. In recent weeks, he had sensed that Nila might have noticed something amiss, suspecting his true allegiance. Attempting to gauge her suspicions, Alvaro cautiously broke the silence. "Is something bothering you, Nila?" he inquired, his voice laced with uncertainty. Nila's response was initially curt. "Nothing," she replied. Alvaro, positioned behind her in flight, couldn't discern her expression. However, after a brief pause, Nila spoke again, suggesting they take a break to conserve their energy. She guided them towards a tranquil mountaintop, its peaceful ambience contrasting with the turmoil in Alvaro's heart. Serving the Dark Lord had brought Alvaro considerable wealth, but it also entailed grave risks. The presence of the fallen gods and the increasing influence of the Sky Hall in the mortal realm meant that enemies of the Dark Lord were multiplying by the day. Alvaro understood that severing ties with the Dark Lord would result in dire consequences, possibly costing him his life. He found himself caught in a perilous web, entangled too deeply to extricate himself easily. Nila's gaze lingered upon the expanse of the crystal ocean, stretching far into the distance under the shimmering moonlight and starry night sky. The beauty of the tranquil scene was momentarily overshadowed by the weight of her thoughts. With a deep breath, she mustered the courage to address the growing doubts that plagued her. "You've changed, Alvaro," Nila spoke softly, her words hanging in the air. The impact of her statement sent a jolt through Alvaro's heart, making it skip a beat. Trying to mask his unease with a playful tone, Alvaro responded, "What do you mean? Are you just messing with me?" He forced a chuckle, hoping to deflect the seriousness of the situation. Nila remained still, her back turned towards him as she grappled with her inner turmoil. Though lacking concrete evidence of Alvaro's betrayal, her instincts screamed that something was amiss. 3 weeks prior, a death squad loyal to the Dark Lord had ruthlessly attacked a supposed safe house that Nila herself had fabricated, leading her fellow elite unit members to believe Noah was hiding there. The safe house's existence had been shared only among the elite soldiers, making the targeted attack all the more suspicious. Furthermore, Nila had uncovered a startling revelation during her investigations into the wealth and backgrounds of her comrades prior to the Dark Lord's assault on their guardian guild. It had come to her attention that Alvaro had recently acquired opulent manors and vineyards across the Ara continent. The timing and nature of his newfound affluence raised her suspicions further. In addition, whenever Ilara Vaurin dispatched a group of elite soldiers to apprehend nobles suspected of colluding with the Dark Lord, they were met with unexpected resistance. Despite the Dark Lord's obliteration of their guardian guild and the massacre of their fellow guardians, Neela remained steadfast in her loyalty to Noah, the supreme guardian. Yearning for her instincts to be proven wrong, Neela turned to face Alvaro, her expression a mix of concern and urgency. "Alvaro, please, you have to be honest with me. We're friends. If there's something you need to tell me, please do so before we meet with Noah." Her words hung in the air, the weight of their significance palpable in the silence that followed. Pandus novel, calm. Neela's eyes welled up with tears as her fists clenched in frustration and anxiety. She could see Alvaro's lips trembling and a peculiar glint in his eyes. The signs were clear. Alvaro was undoubtedly concealing something, and it weighed heavily on Neela's heart. But before he could speak, a sudden surge of fear shot through her body, causing the hair on her neck to stand on end. "Look out!" Alvaro's voice rang out urgently, his instincts kicking into action. Without a moment's hesitation he lunged forward, propelling Neela out of harm's way. Time seemed to slow as Neela's senses sharpened, registering the imminent danger. In the blink of an eye, an arrow materialized from the shadows, hurtling through the air with deadly precision. Alvaro's selfless act of protection came at a terrible cost. The arrow found its mark, piercing through his chest with a sickening thud. Neela's gaze shifted upward, her tear-filled eyes widening in terror as she witnessed a haunting sight unfold before her. Emerging from the shadows of the evening sky were figures cloaked in ominous dark robes, their presence emanating an aura of malevolence. The air crackled with an unsettling energy, sending shivers down Neela's spine. As the figures drew nearer, a chilling realization washed over her. From beneath the depths of their black hoods, gleaming white fangs glistened with a predatory hunger. These were none other than the minions of the Dark Lord, the dreaded vampires who served as his relentless enforcers. Neela's heart sank as she comprehended the dire truth: they had been ambushed. The vampire minions descended with an eerie grace, their dark forms gliding through the air like phantoms. Their eyes burned with an unholy crimson glow, fixated on their wounded prey. Neela's instincts screamed at her to flee, to escape this deadly trap, but her determination to protect her fallen comrade and unravel the mysteries surrounding Alvaro's true allegiance anchored her in place. Chapter 10-12. Noah's return. Neela's gaze swept over the vampire minions that encircled her, assessing their formidable presence. Amongst the group she noticed the distinctive features of the soul-refining stage vampires, their gaunt faces contorted into wicked grins. Their elongated tongues flicked out, hissing with anticipation as they floated effortlessly in the air, their dark eyes fixated on their prey. But her attention was abruptly drawn to the two towering figures amidst the throng. These fusion-stage vampires stood head and shoulders above the rest, their bulging muscles and intimidating stature showcasing their enhanced power. Neela's heart quickened as she recognized the palpable threat they posed. With resolve etched across her face, Neela gripped her silver sword tightly, feeling its reassuring weight in her hand. She channeled her magic, preparing to cast a defensive spell to shield herself against the impending assault. The words of incantation formed on her lips, ready to be unleashed at a moment's notice. Yet, amidst the chaos, a groan escaped Alvaro's lips. Against all odds he struggled to his feet, his face etched with pain and determination. It was a testament to his resilience and an unwavering spirit. As the tension reached its peak, one of the fusion-stage vampires stepped forward, his voice dripping with cruel amusement. "The Dark Queen sends her regards," he taunted, his words laced with a sinister undertone. A wicked smile curled upon his lips, baring his elongated fangs, and his crimson eyes bore into Neela's. As Alvaro gritted his teeth, he summoned every ounce of strength to pull out the arrow lodged in his chest. A sharp wave of pain rippled through his body, and blood gushed from the wound, staining his clothes and the ground beneath him. With a trembling hand he reached for a healing potion tucked within his cloak, intending to mend his grievous injury. But before he could bring the vial to his lips, a blur of movement descended upon them. One of the vampires, propelled by unnatural speed, dashed from the sky, his claws poised to strike. With a fierce growl, Neela reacted swiftly, her hands sweeping through the air with swift precision. In an instant, a burning golden chakra materialized before her, swirling with an intense radiant energy. It formed a formidable shield, blocking the vampire's frenzied assault. The impact reverberated through the chakra, sparks of golden light scattering in all directions. With her other hand, Neela tightened her grip on the silver sword and unleashed a swift counterattack. The blade sliced through the air with an almost ethereal grace, its shimmering edge meeting the vampire's resistance. The clash of metal and fangs filled the night air, a symphony of danger and determination. With a fierce roar, Neela's voice thundered through the chaos. "I will dispatch you unholy creatures. Your reign of terror ends here." Her words echoed with unwavering resolve, her eyes ablaze with righteous fury. The vampires, undeterred by Neela's defiance, taunted her with mocking laughter. "Your futile attempts won't save you, Guardian. The Dark Lord and the Dark Queen will revel in the sight of your severed heads." A deadly dance ensued as Neela fought against the onslaught of the vampires, her movements infused with a deadly grace. She parried their attacks with the burning chakra shield, its golden light pulsating with each impact. As the fusion stage vampires hovered in the air, their imposing figures exuding an aura of dark power, flames sparked and danced along the edges of the golden chakra swirling before Neela. The intense heat radiating from the shield formed a protective barrier, its radiant energy crackling with every movement. The remaining vampires, moving with blinding speed, launched themselves at Neela and Alvaro with a ferocity that matched their bloodlust. Their attacks were swift and relentless, claws slashing through the air in a deadly frenzy. Neela's senses sharpened, her focus honed to a razor's edge as she parried their strikes, her silver sword a blur of steel. Yet, amidst the chaos, Neela's eyes widened in realization. The vampires were not merely engaging her in combat, they were deliberately targeting Alvaro with lethal intent. Their frenzied attacks held no trace of restraint or mercy. Doubt began to creep into Neela's mind as she questioned her suspicions about Alvaro's loyalty. With each passing moment, her doubts grew stronger. The vampires clawed at Alvaro, tearing at his robes, leaving deep gashes across his flesh. He winced in pain, his body a canvas of injuries. But despite the agony, Alvaro summoned a fierce determination. In a desperate bid for survival, Alvaro retaliated. With a guttural cry, he launched himself at one of the vampires, delivering a powerful headbutt that stunned his assailant. In one fluid motion, he followed up with a swift swing of his sword, severing the vampire's hand from its shoulder. Time seemed to slow as the severed hand flew through the air, crimson droplets spraying in its wake. The vampire let out a howl of pain, dark ichor spilling from the wound, as the severed appendage landed with a sickening thud on the ground. Neela's mind raced as she witnessed Alvaro's unwavering resolve and the visceral battle playing out before her. A nagging voice inside her wondered if she had been wrong all along, suspecting Alvaro without concrete evidence. She couldn't deny the sight before her eyes, the brutal assault on Alvaro and his valiant defense against the vampires. With a sudden burst of determination, Neela leaped back from the vampires, landing gracefully on the ground. As she plunged her sword into the earth, a wave of golden flames erupted around her, engulfing the area in a blazing inferno. The intense heat licked at the vampires' bodies, searing their flesh with its divine fury. However, before the flames could consume them completely, the vampires swiftly retrieved a silver vial from their space rings, pouring its contents over their burning forms. The liquid extinguished the fire in an instant, leaving Neela shocked at the effectiveness of the silver potion. Her mind raced, connecting the dots. She knew the Dark Lord possessed formidable alchemical talents, and it seemed he had bestowed his vampiric minions with a means to counteract her fiery onslaught. The vampire's wounds healed before her eyes, their burned flesh regenerating with visible speed. Even the vampire who had lost his arm witnessed the appendage regrowing, seamlessly reattaching itself to his shoulder. The fusion stage vampires, their dark eyes gleaming with malice, taunted Neela and Alvaro amidst their renewed strength. One of them sneered, "Is that all you have? You'll need to do better than that to stand a chance against us." The other vampires joined in, their mocking laughter echoing through the night. "You should have perished when the Dark Lord destroyed your guild. Pathetic guardians, powerless against the might of our master." Neela gritted her teeth, the weight of their words fueling her determination. She refused to let their taunts break her spirit. Rising to her feet, she met their gazes with unwavering resolve. "We may have been wounded, but our will remains unyielding. We fight for justice for the Supreme Guardian Noah Winston. You vampires may have the Dark Lord's aid, but we will find a way to overcome." They erupted into laughter, their taunting voices echoing through the night. "Oh look, the Guardians think they're actors in some grand play. Do they rehearse these silly dialogues in their spare time? How amusing. The vampires, their voices dripping with mockery, repeated Neela's words in exaggerated tones. Oh, look at us, we fight for justice and loyalty. How noble and righteous. They chuckled among themselves, unable to contain their amusement. Do you Guardians have any brain at all? Or are you just created to spout these cliché dialogues? One of the vampires sneered. Resolve? Loyalty? That won't save you from overwhelming power, my dear Guardians. Your words mean nothing in the face of our might. The others joined in, their laughter filling the air. Oh, look at them, thinking their resolve will magically make us tremble. How adorable. The vampires continued their mocking spree, targeting Neela directly. Did you really think your words would scare us? We've seen Guardians like you before. Full of empty promises and weak attempts at heroics. You're nothing but a bunch of fools. Neela's eyes narrowed, her determination unyielding. She shot back. You underestimate the strength of our unity and our determination to protect the innocent. Our resolve will prevail. I think you should take a look at Panda's novel. But the vampires only laughed harder, finding her words even more amusing. Oh, listen to her. The Guardians still believe in hope and justice. How precious. One of them playfully clutched their chest and pretended to be wounded by Neela's words, eliciting laughter from the rest. Oh, we've missed these cringy cliché dialogues from the Guardians. It's been too long. Neela's grip tightened on her sword, frustration and anger burning within her. You may mock our words, but we will prove you wrong. Our actions speak louder than your empty taunts. The vampires exchanged knowing glances before one of them leaned in closer, their voice laced with derision. How touching. Do you hope to kill us with your noble speeches? Save it for your bedtime stories, Guardian. The Dark Lord defeated your entire guild without breaking a sweat. What makes you think you stand a chance? Neela's resolve flickered, but she quickly regained her composure. We will find a way to defeat the Dark Lord and his minions. We will protect the innocent no matter the cost. The vampires erupted into laughter once more, their jeering tones echoing through the night. Oh, listen to her. The brave Guardian, thinking her words will save the day. How pathetic. They continued to mock her, their words like venomous daggers aimed at her spirit. Undeterred, Neela stood tall, her voice firm. Mock us all you want, but we will never surrender to the darkness. We will fight until our last breath, for justice and for our supreme guardian. The vampires responded to Neela's defiance with sneers and taunts. Maybe we should kill you now before you bore us to death with your stupid dialogues, one of them snarled, his fangs glistening in the moonlight. Neela's fists clenched, her determination unwavering despite the mocking gazes fixed upon her. She refused to let their words break her spirit. These vampires would not see her falter. Not today, not ever. The laughter died down abruptly as the vampires, sensing the seriousness in Neela's stance, dashed at her and Alvaro from all directions. Their movements were swift, their attacks aimed to end the fight swiftly and mercilessly. As the battle intensified, Neela channeled her energy into casting spells, her hands weaving intricate patterns in the air. Golden sparks erupted from her fingertips, forming ethereal symbols that glowed with a radiant light. With each incantation, the spells took shape, their manifestations reflecting the pure power coursing through her veins. One spell created a swirling vortex of wind, gusting and howling around the mountain top. It uprooted trees and sent debris flying, creating a barrier of chaos that hindered the vampires' movements. Another spell summoned cascading waves of water, crashing upon the ground and dousing the immediate vicinity, making the terrain treacherous for their foes. Meanwhile, Alvaro wielded his sword with skilled precision, parrying and countering the vampires' relentless attacks. His movements were swift and calculated, each swing of his blade a testament to his prowess as a warrior. He fought with unwavering determination, his eyes locked on his adversaries, seeking any opportunity to strike back. The vampires, however, were not to be underestimated. With blood coursing through their veins, they tapped into their unholy powers, casting spells of their own. Dark crimson energy crackled around their fingertips, twisting and coiling like serpents. They chanted ancient incantations, invoking blood-related magic that seemed to draw power from their very essence. Their spells took on a gruesome appearance. Shadows infused with crimson hues slithered across the ground, leaving trails of dark residue in their wake. The air thickened with a metallic scent, a testament to the potent blood magic that fueled their attacks. The vampires unleashed bolts of crimson energy, leaving trails of devastation in their path. The clash of spells was a sight to behold. Golden light clashed with dark crimson energy, the opposing forces intertwining and battling for dominance. But gradually the vampires gained the upper hand. Their blood magic surged with malevolent power, overpowering Neela's defensive spells with its sheer intensity. Panda's novel. Calm as the vampires closed in, their attacks grew more ferocious. They unleashed a flurry of punches and kicks, each blow infused with their unholy strength. Blood sprayed from Neela and Alvaro's wounds, staining the ground beneath them. The vampires seemed to revel in their cruelty, their sadistic pleasure evident as they toyed with their weakened adversaries. In a brutal display, one vampire landed a powerful blow on Alvaro, breaking his legs with a sickening snap. Pain seared through his body, but his resolve remained unyielding. Neela too endured the onslaught, her body battered and bruised but her spirit unbroken. With their limbs broken and bloodied, Neela and Alvaro fought on, their determination undimmed. Though battered and on the brink of defeat, they refused to surrender. Cut off their heads and end this pathetic fight. As the fusion stage vampires issued their cruel command, a chilling silence enveloped the battlefield. The other vampires, obedient to their superiors, slowly advanced toward Neela and Alvaro, their eyes gleaming with a predatory hunger. The atmosphere grew heavy with impending doom as the vampires closed in, their steps deliberate and unhurried. Neela's heart pounded in her chest, her instincts screaming at her to fight, to resist until the very end. But as she tried to grip her sword, her trembling fingers betrayed her, refusing to respond to her desperate command. Alvaro's eyes welled up with tears as he locked gazes with Neela, his voice choked with sorrow. "I'm sorry, Neela," he whispered, a mixture of regret and resignation lacing his words. He understood the gravity of their situation, the overwhelming odds stacked against them. Neela fought against the overwhelming despair threatening to consume her. With sheer determination, she attempted to find strength in her battered body, to summon the willpower to defy their imminent demise. But her body, battered and exhausted, betrayed her resolve. Her limbs trembled, her movements sluggish and unresponsive. And then, just as all hope seemed lost, a blinding light erupted from the sky. It bathed the battlefield in a radiant brilliance, its intensity searing the eyes of all who beheld it. The vampires recoiled in agony, their flesh sizzling and burning as the divine light consumed them. The fusion stage vampires let out blood-curdling screams, their voices filled with anguish and despair. "No. This cannot be." They howled, their arrogant demeanor crumbling in the face of the unstoppable force that sought to obliterate them. Their bodies began to disintegrate, turning to ash that scattered on the wind. Neela and Alvaro, their eyes squeezed shut against the blinding radiance, felt a profound sense of relief wash over them. The intense light acted as a shield, sparing them from the vampire's cruel fate. They huddled close together, finding solace in each other's presence as the world around them was consumed by the divine blaze. As Neela slowly peeked through her hands, she saw a familiar figure standing amidst the bright light. "Noah," mumbled Neela. Chapter 10:13. Noah will fight the Dark Lord. As the radiant light began to fade, revealing the figure of Noah hovering in the air, a hushed stillness settled over the battlefield. His long black hair fluttered in the ethereal breeze, contrasting against his once immaculate white robes. What caught the attention of Neela and Alvaro the most was the beard that adorned Noah's usually clean-shaven face, a testament to the hardships he had endured. Noah's piercing eyes, usually filled with warmth and wisdom, now burned with a fiery mixture of rage and pain. The weight of his responsibilities and the losses suffered weighed heavily upon him, fueling the power that radiated from his very being. The vampires, sensitive to the aura of authority and strength emanating from Noah, shuddered involuntarily, their instincts recognizing a force greater than their own. Noah's gaze swept over the fallen vampires and the broken bodies of Neela and Alvaro. It was a gaze that carried a multitude of emotions: grief for the fallen, determination to protect those he cared for, and a simmering anger directed at the forces that sought to extinguish hope and justice. The vampire minions, once full of arrogance and malice, now quivered under the weight of Noah's presence. They realized the grave mistake they had made in crossing paths with the Supreme Guardian. The balance of power had shifted, and their newfound bravado wilted in the face of Noah's righteous fury. As the vampires laid eyes upon Noah, their hearts skipped a beat. The sheer power emanating from him sent tremors through their undead bodies. However, a glimmer of confidence flickered within them as they remembered Noah's unwavering commitment to his no-kill rule. "Impressive display of light, Noah. But fear not, for we are not afraid of you," one vampire sneered, attempting to mask their unease with bravado. "What can you possibly do?" Bore us to death? It's unfortunate for you, Noah, that vampires possess regenerative abilities. And even if you were to suppress our powers, the Dark Lord would simply restore them, another vampire taunted, reveling in their perceived invincibility. Little did they know, they had gravely underestimated the magnitude of the situation. Neela, standing beside Noah, couldn't help but mumble under her breath, "You fools have no idea whom you're trifling with." Noah, consumed by a righteous rage, remained silent. He closed his eyes, allowing his fury to intensify. The air around him crackled with anticipation as his body began to glow, an ethereal light radiating from within. The humming sound of his power filled the air, a testament to the immense energy brewing within him. Unfazed by Noah's impending surge, the vampires jeered and lunged forward, intent on attacking him. Oblivious to the imminent danger, they dismissed the radiant aura enveloping Noah. However, their arrogance proved to be their undoing. In a breathtaking display, the intensity of Noah's light reached a crescendo, surpassing the vampire's supposed immunity granted by the Dark Lord's protections. The blazing radiance disregarded their defenses and unleashed a scorching heat upon them. Anguished screams erupted from the vampires as they writhed in excruciating pain. Their once formidable forms crumbled into ash, reduced to mere remnants of their former selves. Even the two powerful fusion-stage vampires met their demise, unable to withstand the searing brilliance emanating from Noah. Neela and Alvaro, witnessing the cataclysmic event unfold before them, felt the heat wash over them even with their eyes tightly shut. A mixture of awe and trepidation coursed through their beings as they realized the sheer magnitude of Noah's power. With Noah's mortal body merging with his divine essence, he had ascended to the realm of gods. Furthermore, during his unconscious state in the Sky Hall, the elders exposed him to pure celestial energy, propelling him to the half-celestial stage. Now both Noah and Michael stood at the half-celestial stage, their first step towards godhood, known as the fledgling god rank. Upon attaining godhood, each subsequent advancement within the divine ranks granted a god exponentially greater strength and power. However, despite Noah and Michael's newfound might as fledgling gods, they paled in comparison to the fallen gods, who had already reached the second stage of their godhood, the demigod stage. The disparity of just one rank meant that Noah and Michael stood little chance against the overwhelming might of the fallen gods. Fortunately for Noah, as the god of light, most of the fallen gods were in pursuit of his twin brother, Michael, who bore the mantle of the god of darkness. As the vampires turned to ashes, the radiant light emanating from Noah gradually faded. Noah turned his gaze towards Neela and Alvaro, a flicker of relief washing over him at the sight of his loyal companions. Amidst the overwhelming sadness and burning rage stemming from the loss of his wife Alicia and his family, he found solace in the presence of familiar faces. However, before Noah could descend to the ground, Alvaro collapsed, his body giving way. "Alvaro." Neela's voice rang out, filled with concern as she hurried to his side. As Neela turned her attention to the arrow's entry point in Alvaro's chest, she noticed the eerie purple veins spreading across his wounded flesh. Alvaro began to cough up purple-tinged blood, a clear sign of poisoning. "Supreme Guardian." Neela called out, her plea reaching Noah's ears as he descended to the ground. Kneeling beside Alvaro, Noah gently placed his hand upon the injured man's chest. A shiver ran down Neela's spine as she observed Noah's palm radiating a warm and comforting light. She tightly grasped Alvaro's hand, her heart heavy with worry and hope, silently praying for his recovery. In this dire moment, Neela realized the folly of her suspicions towards Alvaro. If he were truly a spy, driven solely by greed and lacking loyalty to the Guardian Guild and their friendship, he would never have risked his life by intercepting the arrow meant for her. "He has been struck by a poisoned arrow," Noah spoke calmly, his voice carrying a tinge of concern. Neela's desperation trembled in her voice as she asked, "Can you save him, Supreme Guardian?" Without uttering a single word, Noah firmly grasped Neela's hand with his other hand and closed his eyes. In an instant, a brilliant flash of light illuminated the mountaintop, and the trio vanished from sight, carried away by the mysterious radiance. The trio found themselves instantly transported into a cozy cabin, its inviting atmosphere providing a stark contrast to the chaotic battleground they had just left behind. Neela's eyes took in the surroundings, and she couldn't help but feel a sense of relief wash over her. The cabin exuded warmth and comfort, with wooden walls adorned by paintings of serene landscapes and a crackling fireplace casting a gentle glow. Noah swiftly placed Alvaro onto a nearby table, his expression focused and determined. He turned to Neela and instructed her to retrieve a crimson-red flower from one of the nearby racks. Neela's eyes scanned the room until they settled upon a small vase containing the vibrant blossom. She carefully plucked a single petal, its deep red hue reminding her of life's resilience. Handing the petal to Noah, he crushed it delicately between his fingers, releasing the crimson juices. With a precise motion, Noah allowed the red liquid to trickle into Alvaro's wounded chest, the essence of the flower's healing properties mingling with the poison coursing through his veins. Noah then placed his hand upon Alvaro's chest, his palm emanating a gentle heat and a radiant, luminous glow. The power of the god of light surged through him as he tapped into his divine abilities. The room seemed to be filled with a soft, ethereal light as Noah directed the healing energy toward Alvaro's body, targeting the poison that threatened his life. I think you should take a look at the gentle heat from Noah's palm seeped into Alvaro's chest, and a brilliant radiance began to envelop the injured man. The light grew in intensity, illuminating the room as it penetrated deep into Alvaro's being, dispelling the toxic effects of the poison. With each passing moment, Noah's healing powers worked tirelessly, burning away the malevolent substance with the purifying force of light. Neela watched with bated breath, her heart filled with hope. She could sense the immense power flowing through Noah, the determination etched on his face as he fought to save their companion's life. The room was suffused with a gentle warmth, a testament to Noah's unwavering commitment to healing and protection. After burning away the poison in Alvaro's body, Noah left the cabin, his heart heavy with memories and emotions. As he stepped outside, his gaze fixated on the vast expanse of the distant sky, reminiscent of the nights he had spent stargazing with his beloved wife Alicia, their bodies entwined in a tender embrace. Tears welled up in Noah's eyes, silently tracing the contours of his anguished face. The image of the Dark Lord ruthlessly snuffing out Alicia's life played over and over in his mind, igniting a surge of fury that coursed through his veins, turning his eyes a fiery red. Trembling with a myriad of emotions, Noah found solace in the open air, hoping to find answers within the vastness of the heavens. As he stood there, a figure emerged from the cabin. It was Neela, her presence a gentle reminder of the loyalty and strength that still resided within their shattered world. Addressing Noah with reverence, Neela's voice trembled slightly as she spoke, "Supreme Guardian." Cutting her off, Noah's voice quivered with a mix of pain, anger, and regret. "I am not the Supreme Guardian anymore. The Guardian Guild no longer exists." In that moment, the weight of his words hung heavy in the air, underscoring the magnitude of their loss. The shattered remnants of the once great Guardian Guild loomed before them, a painful reminder of the bond that had been severed by treachery and betrayal. Seeking solace in Neela's presence, Noah shared his inner turmoil, his voice filled with a potent blend of anguish and desperation. "Tell me, Neela, how does one fight against their own flesh and blood? Ghost, the one who took Alicia's life is my brother. How can I avenge her when the one responsible happens to share my blood?" In his voice, Neela sensed the torment that consumed Noah's every thought, his conflicting loyalties tearing at the very fabric of his being. The weight of his question hung heavy in the air, as they both grappled with the painful reality that their fight against the darkness was not just an external battle but an internal struggle against their own kin. Neela understood that in that moment, Noah needed more than a subordinate. He needed a friend. Summoning her strength, she took a deep breath and approached him. "Noah," Neela began, her voice gentle yet resolute. She realized the weight of his struggle, torn between the bonds of blood and the loss of his beloved Alicia. "The Dark Lord is not your brother. Blood does not define family. Lady Alicia was your family, and it was his hands that took her from you." Neela stepped closer, standing beside Noah, offering her unwavering support. Noah stood there, caught in the turmoil of his emotions. The desire for vengeance burned within him, seeking retribution for the life stolen from him. But at the same time, he couldn't help but feel the weight of conflicting emotions tugging at his heart. Neela, sensing his inner struggle, stepped closer, her eyes filled with compassion and determination. "Noah," she said, her voice steady yet filled with empathy. "I understand the pain and guilt that consumes you. But defeating the Dark Lord is not just about avenging Alicia's death. It is about ensuring that no one else suffers the way you have." Noah's gaze met Neela's, his eyes reflecting the battle raging within his soul. "I blame myself, Neela," he confessed, his voice heavy with regret. "I should have seen the signs. Ghost, my own brother. If only I had realized it sooner, 2 years ago, perhaps I could have turned him away from this path of darkness. I failed him and I failed my family." Neela placed a comforting hand on Noah's shoulder. Noah, you cannot shoulder the blame for the choices Ghost has made. He had countless opportunities to choose a different path, to turn away from causing harm. Yet he embraced the darkness willingly. Tears welled up in Noah's eyes, his voice trembling with emotion. But he's my brother Neela. Flesh and blood. I should have protected him, guided him away from this fate. Neela's grip tightened, her voice unwavering. Noah, listen to me. Ghost made his own choices. He chose to become the Dark Lord, to sow chaos and destruction. It is your destiny, whether he is your brother or not, to stand against him. To protect the innocent, just as Alicia would have wanted. Noah's heart ached, torn between his love for his lost wife and his sense of responsibility towards his family, both past and present. He closed his eyes, allowing Neela's words to sink in, the weight of his decision pressing upon him. His mind replayed memories of Alicia's laughter, her warmth, and the dreams they once shared. The pain of her loss intensified, intertwining with his guilt and self-blame. I should have been there for her, Neela. Noah's voice quivered with sorrow. I should have protected Alicia, my family. It should have been me who was abandoned, not Ghost. If only I had been stronger, wiser, maybe things would have turned out differently. Neela's presence offered him solace, her unwavering support providing a guiding light in the darkness. She understood the complexity of his emotions, the struggle between seeking justice and grappling with the bonds of blood. Noah, Neela's voice resonated with empathy. It is natural to feel torn, trapped between loyalty, guilt, and the need for retribution. But you must remember, Ghost had his own choices to make. You cannot blame yourself for the path he chose. You did not abandon Alicia or your family. You loved them, protected them. It was Ghost who strayed. Noah's fists clenched, his conflicting emotions warring within him. I never wanted to fight my own brother, he admitted, his voice heavy with anguish. But I cannot let his darkness go unchallenged. I must avenge Alicia, ensure that her death was not in vain. It tears me apart, Neela, to stand against my own blood. But I cannot allow the Dark Lord's tyranny to continue. Neela's gaze remained steady, filled with unwavering resolve. Noah, you carry the burden of your guild, your family, and Alicia's memory. It is a heavy weight to bear, but you are not alone. We will face this together, united against the darkness. Ghost made his choices, and now it is your destiny to confront him. Chapter 10:14. Returning to Sea Realm after successfully vanquishing Elder Gravesinger and dealing with Forcrux, Michael stumbled upon a remarkable discovery. He found a skull-shaped medallion among the Elder's belongings, and to his surprise, he learned that it was forged in the realm of gods. With Elder's assistance and some careful rune adjustments, Michael managed to harness the medallion's power to create a portal back to Itenes. Rubbing the smooth surface of the skull medallion, Michael witnessed a mysterious purple vortex materialize before him. Taking a deep breath to steady his nerves, he mustered the courage to step into the swirling abyss, vanishing from Elder Gravesinger's pocket dimension in an instant. Meanwhile, in the Wood Elves' village, the curious and enthusiastic children had gathered around Elder. Eager for tales of adventure and heroism, they huddled closely, their eyes wide with anticipation. Thilv and Taskin, on the other hand, stood slightly apart, leaning against a sturdy tree trunk, listening attentively to Elder's captivating narrative about their god, the Dark Lord. Elder spun a vivid yarn, recounting the courageous exploits of Michael as he confronted a fearsome vampire death squad, battling to assert his dominance and earn their loyalty. The children gasped in awe, their young minds captivated by the tale unfolding before them. Suddenly, a sharp gust of wind swept through the village, causing everyone to startle and turn their attention towards the disturbance. Before their astonished gazes, a magnificent purple vortex materialized near Michael's throne. With an air of confidence, their god emerged from the swirling portal, returning to them from realms unknown. My lord, Thilv, Taskin, and Elder swiftly bowed before Michael, their faces filled with reverence. After being regaled by Elder's tales of Michael's heroism, the young Wood Elves regarded him with admiration and wonder, their eyes shining with excitement. Each child longed to emulate their god, aspiring to be just as brave and formidable. We must speak, Michael declared, his tone laden with importance. Realizing the gravity of the situation, Thilv and Taskin exchanged a knowing glance. Sensing the urgency in Michael's voice, Thilv turned her attention towards the children, her expression mirroring concern. All right, children, it's time to explore the wonders of the forest, Thilv gently instructed, suppressing a smile at their playful sighs of mild protest. With a collective nod, the children dispersed, their laughter and chatter fading into the distance. Left alone with his loyal followers, Michael took his rightful place upon his grand throne, radiating an air of command. "My lord, what transpired in the Sky Hall?" Ellider's voice quivered with both curiosity and trepidation. He could scarcely fathom the audacity of the Dark Lord infiltrating the heart of their enemy's stronghold and returning unscathed. The mere thought sent shivers down Ellider's spine. A sly grin crept across Michael's face as he nonchalantly crossed one leg over the other, reclining upon his imposing throne. "Exceedingly well, my friend," he began, his voice tinged with a mix of satisfaction and mischief. "We now possess the pocket dimension housing the demon coffins. With enough time and resources, we can resurrect this ancient race." Taskin and Thilv couldn't help but shudder at the mention of resurrecting such formidable forces. They had been fortunate to live in the world of Itenes, where their greatest perils had been the natural predators of the forest, until recently encountering the relentless Skyhall soldiers. Yet, compared to their relatively peaceful existence, Michael's challenges seemed insurmountable. His list of adversaries grew with each passing day, and a restful night's sleep had become a luxury of the past. Eager to witness the downfall of the Sky Hall, Ellider's emotions were torn between terror and elation. Having endured 3 millennia of imprisonment at the hands of the Sky Hall, his hatred for the institution knew no bounds. He would gladly sacrifice anything to witness the Sky Hall razed to the ground. But to breathe life into these dormant bodies, I must journey into the Sea Realm, Michael revealed, his gaze fixed on a distant horizon. Retrieving a peculiar artifact from his possession, he casually tossed the skull-shaped medallion towards Ellider, who caught it with reverent hands. The medallion glimmered brilliantly against the wood elf's palm, its intricate and powerful runes leaving him in awe and disbelief. "Such a finely crafted artifact," Ellider murmured, his voice filled with a mixture of admiration and astonishment. To think they managed to imbue such complexity and power within such a compact medallion. As the ethereal light danced across the medallion's surface, Ellider couldn't help but marvel at the craftsmanship. Michael decided to embark on a perilous journey to the Sea Realm, determined to obtain another seed of darkness that would permanently activate the system. With the system operational, he would be able to resurrect the dormant demon bodies and confront the gods themselves. Despite Nithrol's warning about not returning to the mortal realm until reaching the celestial stage, Michael had to take the risk. The Sea Realm held the key to bringing the system online, as it was the only way he could earn the crucial experience points necessary to ascend to the celestial stage. "Ellider, stay here with the Wood Elves," Michael commanded, his voice firm and resolute. "Assist them in dismantling the outpost of the Sky Hall soldiers. I will provide you with explosives and poisons to make the task easier." Taskin and Thilv, realizing their god was once again departing their world, knelt before him, a mixture of concern and anticipation etched on their faces. "My lord, when will you return?" Taskin inquired, his voice tinged with a hint of longing. "If all goes according to plan, I'll be back soon," Michael reassured them, his gaze filled with determination. With a nod of gratitude, Ellider returned the skull medallion to Michael. As the medallion rested in his palm, Michael focused his thoughts on the house of Ellider, the place where he had last parted ways with Mutrad. Infusing the medallion with a sliver of arch-energy, he felt its power surge and shimmer with anticipation. Before him, a portal materialized, a swirling gateway to the unknown. Taking a deep breath, Michael steeled himself and stepped into the portal, leaving behind his loyal followers and the familiar realm of Itenes. "I think you should take a look at inside the house of Howrid." Valen sat regally upon his throne, while his fellow elders occupied a row of seats before him. The hall itself was a marvel of underwater construction, nestled in the depths of the ocean. With no sunlight to penetrate its depths, the hall relied on the ethereal glow of the Arctic barrier surrounding the city as its primary light source. The hall's architecture was nothing short of majestic, reflecting the grandeur and power of the Howrids. Intricate designs adorned the walls, showcasing the craftsmanship of the ancient builders. The ceiling soared high above, adorned with a magnificent chandelier that shimmered with a soft, blue luminescence. Each crystal sparkled like stars in the vast oceanic night sky, casting gentle rays of light that danced and played upon the water below. Behind Valen, a wall made of transparent glass revealed the mesmerizing expanse of the deep blue sea. Schools of vibrant fish swam gracefully, their colorful scales reflecting the scattered light. Their presence added a sense of tranquility to the hall, as if the creatures of the ocean were drawn to witness the council of the Howrid elders. The gentle currents outside the glass wall swayed the seaweed and coral, creating a mesmerizing display of movement and life. The vibrant hues of the underwater flora and fauna painted a vivid tapestry against the backdrop of the endless blue sea. It was a sight that reminded the elders of their connection to the vast oceanic realm they called home. Unlike the calm sea behind them, Valen and the elders bore a frown on their faces, indicating the turmoil in their hearts. Among the elders, Mutrad was one of them. In fact, after Michael, the Dark Lord, slaughtered the elders of House Arctic and majority of the House Gladrath, Mutrad had been assisting Valen in regaining the stability in Arctic Hall. Without the Arctic Hall elders and House Gladrath, some of the Serpent Hall elders were making their moves against Arctic Hall. This was a delicate era for the Sea Realm, as their peace was overridden by people's greed for power, especially the people of Sea Serpent Hall. Contrary to the serene sea beyond, the faces of Valen and the elders bore a collective frown, betraying the internal turmoil they experienced. Among them, Mutrad stood as one of the key figures. After the Dark Lord, Michael, had mercilessly slain the elders of House Arctic and decimated House Gladrath, Mutrad had tirelessly assisted Valen in restoring stability to the Arctic Hall. However, with the absence of the Arctic Hall elders and the weakened House Gladrath, the Serpent Hall elders had begun to make their moves, driven by their thirst for power. This delicate era tested the peace of the Sea Realm, as the ambition of the Serpent Hall threatened to overshadow their harmonious existence. "We must heed the information provided by our spies in Watergod Hall, Lord Valen," voiced one of the gray-haired elders. "Elder Keelan speaks the truth. Our scholars suspect that the recent tremors in Widow's Down are a result of some form of energy radiation. If our spies are correct, Watergod Hall has already dispatched a team to investigate the matter," added another elder. Mutrad, with a somber tone, interjected, "With all due respect to Elder Keelan and Elder Mirian, investigating unknown energy radiation in Widow's Down should be our least pressing concern. We have received multiple reports indicating that the Sea Serpent Hall is preparing for an invasion, and numerous elders in House Gormak are conspiring with them. If we do not address the threat posed by the Sea Serpent Hall promptly, the House of Howrid itself will be at risk." Mutrad's words were met with a tumultuous response from the gathered elders, filled with curses and shouts of disagreement. "Do not create a scene, boy. The last time we followed your advice and sought the Dark Lord's aid, it resulted in the deaths of our esteemed elders and the ruin of House Gladrath. If anyone is to blame for the instability within the Arctic Hall, it is you," rebuked Elder Keelan. As soon as the name Dark Lord escaped Elder Keelan's lips, an uneasy silence enveloped the hall. The air grew heavy with a mix of fear and trepidation. Elder Keelan himself realized the weight of his words, having uttered the name of the man who instilled terror in their hearts. "With all due respect, Elder Keelan, let us not forget that it was a unanimous decision to seek the Dark Lord's assistance," calmly interjected Elder Markey, a wise elder with silver hair and serene eyes. "The Dark Lord agreed to retrieve our artifact, and he fulfilled his promise. Though we cannot disregard the fact that he brought about the demise of the elders in House Gladrath, it is unfair to lay the blame solely on Mutrad's shoulders. I implore you to consider Mutrad's counsel. Our immediate threat lies with the Sea Serpent Hall. Reflect upon this. Even if we were to investigate the origin of the tremors, the Watergod Hall has already dispatched a team to Widow's Down. If our scholars are correct and the cause is indeed something within Widow's Down, it will fall under the jurisdiction of the Watergod Hall. Whether it is a gift or a curse, they will claim it. Regrettably, we are not in a position to oppose the Watergod Hall," Elder Markey reasoned with wisdom and insight. Mutrad, who had pledged his loyalty to the Dark Lord in order to save his world and the House of Howrid, felt a sense of helplessness wash over him. It had been a year since he last heard from the Dark Lord, and news of his recent return and the shocking destruction of the Guardian Guild had spread throughout the Sea Realm like wildfire. Yet, the Dark Lord had not contacted Mutrad, leaving him in a state of uncertainty and concern. In the event that circumstances become dire, we must consider the possibility of aligning ourselves with the Sea Serpent Hall. We are in no position to engage in a conflict with them, especially since many of the elders from House Gormak have already struck deals with the Sea Serpent Hall. Elder Markey's words echoed through the hall, eliciting gasps of disbelief. However, Mutrad was among the few who found merit in Markey's suggestion. "That option is not viable. I have consulted with the ancestors in the Immortal Council, and they do not wish for us to join the Sea Serpent Hall and forsake the legacy they have worked tirelessly to establish. They want us to resist and fight," finally spoke Valen, the esteemed leader of the House of Howrid. Unfortunately, his words confirmed Mutrad's apprehensions, leaving him with a heavy heart and a sense of foreboding. As the elders and Valen continued their discussion, an inexplicable change seemed to permeate the air within the hall. A sudden chill settled in, causing the atmosphere to grow still. The elders and Valen exchanged perplexed glances, sensing an unusual shift in the airflow that intensified with each passing moment. The once gentle breeze transformed into a fierce gust, swirling with an unsettling force. Caught off guard by this anomaly, the elders and Valen furrowed their brows, their expressions etched with concern. Their attention became fixated on a peculiar sight unfolding before them, a vortex materializing right in the heart of the hall. Guards! Mutrad's urgent cry reverberated through the chamber, prompting the armored soldiers stationed nearby to respond swiftly. Drawing their weapons, the elders and guards prepared to defend themselves against this unexpected intrusion. The soldiers, in a display of agility and discipline, rushed into the hall, encircling the swirling portal with unwavering determination. Their eyes remained fixed upon the mysterious phenomenon as anticipation and tension filled the air. Then, in a slow and deliberate manner, a figure emerged from within the depths of the portal. The collective gasp that escaped the lips of the elders resonated through the hall, leaving them utterly astonished. The man who stepped forth, to their disbelief, was none other than the Dark Lord himself. Chapter 10:15. Fighting a fallen god. As Michael surveyed the soldiers, their weapons held tightly in their grasp, a faint smile curved his lips. The tension in the air was palpable, but he knew there was no need for conflict. They were merely pawns in a game they did not fully comprehend. Soldiers, Michael spoke with calm authority, his voice carrying across the room. There is no point in engaging in combat. I have no quarrel with you. The soldiers exchanged uncertain glances, their eyes flickering with a mixture of confusion and suspicion. They had been trained to follow orders without question, to defend their realm from any perceived threat. Yet, standing before them was the enigmatic Dark Lord himself, the very embodiment of the danger they were taught to fear. Before the situation escalated further, Valen, seated regally upon his throne, leaped to his feet. His eyes widened with both surprise and concern as he hurriedly made his way towards Michael, leaving behind the council of elders who watched the unfolding scene with bated breath. What is the meaning of this intrusion, Dark Lord? Valen's voice resonated with authority, demanding an explanation for the sudden appearance of the formidable figure before him. Michael turned his gaze towards Valen, meeting his piercing stare. Valen, I mean you no harm, he replied, his voice laced with a cool confidence. I have come here seeking information, not conflict. Valen's expression softened slightly, curiosity mingling with caution. Information? About what? From within the depths of his black, flowing coat, Michael retrieved a weathered map, causing the soldiers to tense up at the mere movement of his hands. Their fingers tightened around their weapons, ready to strike if necessary. Ignoring their reaction, Michael unfolded the map and laid it upon the nearest surface, revealing a parchment hidden within his pocket. Valen felt reluctant but eventually took the map from the Dark Lord's outstretched hand. As he unfurled it, his eyes widened in shock and disbelief. The map displayed their vast sea realm, with intricate markings indicating various locations of significance. But what caught Valen's attention was a particular spot marked with a bold X, the treacherous and uncharted region known as Widow's Down. You're pointing at Widow's Down, Valen stated, his voice betraying a mix of astonishment and caution. It is a dangerous place, shrouded in mystery and peril. Why would you be interested in that forsaken area? You don't have to worry about that, Valen. I just want to know if there is a way to reach this Widow's Down you speak of quickly, said Michael calmly and cryptically. Elder Marquis, standing among the council of elders, a spark of realization lit up in his eyes. His mind raced with possibilities as he swiftly formulated a plan. This was an opportunity they couldn't afford to miss, an opportunity to potentially rid themselves of the Sea Serpent Hall's menace once and for all. Dark Lord, Elder Marquis interjected, his voice soft but carrying a sense of purpose. If you are truly interested in Widow's Down, there might be a way to expedite your journey. All eyes turned towards Elder Marquis, including Mutrad's, who felt a sense of apprehension at the old man's sudden plan. Mutrad understood the potential benefits of utilizing the Dark Lord's power against their enemies, but he also knew the dangers of underestimating Michael's capabilities. What do you mean, Elder Marquis? Valen inquired, his gaze shifting between the elderly council member and the Dark Lord himself. Elder Marquis's wrinkled face bore a knowing smile. Legends speak of a secret wind tunnel known only to the Sea Serpent Hall. It is said to be hidden away, leading to an area closest to Widow's Down. If you were to make use of this tunnel, You could potentially reach your destination swiftly and unnoticed. Mutrad's eyes widened in surprise, realizing the extent of Elder Marquis' plan. The old man was attempting to manipulate the Dark Lord, to utilize his power to eliminate their enemies. While part of him recognized the practicality of such a strategy, another part warned against underestimating the Dark Lord's motives and capabilities. Michael, observing the exchange, maintained his composed demeanor. His eyes narrowed slightly as he assessed the elderly council member before him. He sensed the undercurrents of manipulation, the hidden intentions within Elder Marquis' words. After hearing Elder Marquis' words, a small, enigmatic smile played upon Michael's lips, his thoughts concealed behind his calm exterior. Mutrad, who had pledged his loyalty to the Dark Lord in secret, knew him better than anyone else in the hall. He gazed at the Dark Lord with unwavering eyes, understanding the complex nature of the situation. Meanwhile, the soldiers in the room jerked with unease at the Dark Lord's movement, fully aware that if he wished to attack, there would be no stopping him. They were acutely aware of the power he possessed, a power that could easily turn their encounter into a massacre. However, the Dark Lord's purpose in being there was not to unleash destruction upon them but to seek a swift path to Widow's down. With his hands casually clasped behind his back, Michael began to pace around Valen and his entourage, his footsteps measured and deliberate. As he circled them, his voice resonated with a calm confidence. "Please forgive my skepticism, but I have lived long enough in this world to know that nothing comes without a price. Furthermore, the Sea Serpent Hall holds a significant position among the Great Eight clans, does it not? I understand that your Sea Realm prides itself on maintaining peaceful relations among the three clans. However, it is difficult for me to believe that the secret wind tunnel you propose, known only to the Sea Serpent Hall, is a mere coincidence," Michael calmly stated, his eyes keenly observing the reactions of the elders and Valen. As he expected, a flicker of unease passed across their faces, revealing the hidden agenda of the House of Howrid. "I may not know all the ins and outs of your Sea Realm, but I do know one thing. Peace doesn't last. It's just a fleeting moment in the grand scheme of things. People, my friends, always hunger for power. It's in their very nature. Now, considering what happened the last time, your precious Arctic Hall must be weakened. And let me tell you something, a weakened predator becomes nothing but prey. And mark my words, when one predator falls, another rises. So, tell me straight, have you become nothing but helpless prey to the Sea Serpent Hall?" Michael's voice dripped with a cool, confident aura, his piercing gaze fixed on Valen and the elders, challenging them to face the harsh reality of their situation. He paused, allowing the weight of his words to settle upon the gathered leaders. His piercing gaze scanned their faces, seeking the truth hidden within their expressions. It was evident that the House of Howrid had its own motives and hidden fears, and Michael intended to uncover them. "I think you should take a look at, so, I ask you plainly, have you become the prey of the Sea Serpent Hall, your once allies turned predators?" Michael's voice resonated with a mix of curiosity and authority, leaving no room for evasion. He awaited their response, poised to unravel the intricate web of power and deception that lay before him. After hearing Michael's probing words, Valen understood that hiding their troubles with the Sea Serpent Hall was futile. However, he was reluctant to involve the Dark Lord in their affairs. If it came down to it, Valen would rather join forces with the Sea Serpent Hall than engage in a futile battle that would only result in the loss of their fellow House of Howrid members. Valen recognized that there was no point in fighting a losing battle and sacrificing lives. Bringing the Dark Lord into the conflict would undoubtedly lead to victory against the Sea Serpent Hall, but it would also bring destruction upon them. As the Dark Lord himself had pointed out, without the Sea Serpent Hall, the Sea Realm would become weakened. And as he had warned, when a weakened prey attracts another predator, chaos would ensue. Valen had no desire to witness such devastation. "Forgive Elder Marquis if he had any hidden intentions, Dark Lord. Elder Marquis wants what's best for our house, and yes, we do face troubles with the Sea Serpent Hall. However, we will handle this matter within our own realm. We do not require your assistance," Valen declared, his voice filled with a mixture of determination and a desire to protect his people. Upon hearing Valen's words, Michael simply smiled, his gaze unwavering. "I respect your choice. Now, I shall take my leave and head towards the Sea Serpent Hall," Michael responded. Valen signaled the guards to escort the Dark Lord through a secret exit, ensuring that no one else witnessed his departure from the House of Howrid. The soldiers, though fearful, gestured for Michael to follow them. They led him along a narrow glass pathway, offering a breathtaking view of the deep sea. Michael marveled at the beauty before him, the vibrant golden-colored fish and the mesmerizing array of unknown deep-sea creatures that gracefully swam around. Finally, they arrived at a hall where a circular hollow lay on the floor. Michael knew it would open up, granting him passage into the depths of the sea, where he would journey towards the Sea Serpent Hall. Travel north following the current. It will guide you to the Sea Serpent Hall, one of the guards informed him, to which Michael nodded in understanding. Just as he was about to step into the hollow, Mutrad entered the hall. "You two leave us," Mutrad commanded, ordering the guards to depart, leaving him alone with the Dark Lord. "My lord," Mutrad spoke once the two guards had left them alone. "Is it wise for you to meet me alone, my lord? You don't want the elders to discover that I have secretly pledged my loyalty to you," Michael said calmly, a smile playing upon his lips. "Some of the elders already suspect my allegiance to you, but they lack any concrete proof," Mutrad sighed, his voice tinged with resignation. "If you are concerned about me bringing destruction upon your world, fear not. I'm not a threat to your realm. Besides, there is a greater danger looming over us as we speak," Michael assured him, implying that the true enemy was none other than the Sea Serpent Hall. "The gods have arrived, Mutrad. And I have reliable information that they seek to make every sentient being their worshipper. Those who resist them will face annihilation," Michael revealed, his tone carrying a weight of seriousness. It was evident that Mutrad was already aware of the rising threat posed by the fallen gods. "Are you referring to the fallen gods?" Mutrad asked, his voice filled with a mixture of concern and curiosity. "The fallen gods are mere weaker beings trapped within the mortal realm, Mutrad. There exists a realm above ours, the realm of gods itself. Those deities are the real deal. You call me the big bad evil Dark Lord, don't you? Well, just wait until you witness the descent of the true gods upon your precious world," Michael chuckled softly. Truth be told, he harbored no illusions about the benevolence and kindness of the gods in the realm above. The god of necromancy, Forcrux, the god of war, and the god of time and space were anything but merciful and gentle. In Michael's eyes, the realm of gods was a place even more sinister than the mortal realm. "So, you can relax. I am not the greatest threat you should fear at this moment," Michael chuckled again, turning to leave. "Dark Lord, wait," Mutrad halted Michael in his tracks. "I have information about the Sea Serpent Hall that you should know before you depart," Mutrad said, causing Michael to slowly turn around, his interest piqued. "The leader of the Sea Serpent Hall has awakened. He is what you refer to as a fallen god. Expect intense battles and goosebumps badass scenes in this arc. It is time for the Dark Lord's enemies to fall down one by one. The rise of the Dark Lord begins." Chapter 1016. Fighting a Fallen God 2. After receiving the startling revelation about the presence of a fallen god within the Sea Serpent Hall, Michael found himself re-evaluating his approach to the impending encounter. During his journey from the House of Howrid, nestled in the depths of the Arctic Hall's underground ocean city, to the Sea Serpent Hall, he had ample time to reconsider his strategies. Equipped with his specially designed armor, Michael possessed the ability to withstand the immense pressure of the underwater depths and breathe comfortably. As he ventured closer to his destination, his skull-faced mask materialized over his visage, concealing his features with meticulous precision. The mask not only added to his formidable appearance but also housed a contraption that generated a steady supply of breathable air, allowing him to navigate the underwater terrain effortlessly. As Michael drew nearer to the Sea Serpent Hall, the three concentric rings that comprised the city's architecture glimmered under the radiant light emanating from the energy dome. Each ring held its own allure, contributing to the city's ethereal charm. At the center of the city, the third and innermost ring housed the pinnacle of power and authority, the royal palace. This grand structure, crafted from gleaming white coral and adorned with shimmering pearls, exuded an air of regality and prestige. Its towering walls and majestic archways spoke of the king's dominion, while its interior boasted opulent halls and chambers adorned with exquisite artworks and ornate furnishings. It was within these hallowed walls that King Serpent and his court held court, making decisions that shaped the destiny of the Sea Serpent Hall. As Mutrad had informed him, the elusive wind tunnel that would lead him closest to Widow's Down was said to be hidden within the Serpent King's castle. If Mutrad's words were to be believed, the Serpent King himself had obtained divine grace and ascended to the status of a god, albeit a fallen one, trapped within the mortal realm due to the previous Dark Lord's barrier. A mixture of disbelief and curiosity laced Michael's voice as he uttered, "Is that?" His words trailed off as he caught sight of a familiar figure in the distance, surrounded by a translucent energy dome that shielded him from the crushing pressure of the sea. To his astonishment, it was none other than Evan Clark. Memories flooded back to Michael, reminding him of the last time they had crossed paths. It had been during the tumultuous period when Michael unleashed his fury upon Wuxia, and Evan had joined the Guardian Guild, fighting alongside Zanali in a desperate attempt to quell the chaos. What took Michael by surprise even more was the ethereal aura enveloping Evan, reminiscent of the orc who had been possessed by a sliver of Rudra's divine grace. Furthermore, Evan's cultivation power surpassed any scale Michael had encountered before, making it difficult for him to gauge its true extent. Although momentarily taken aback by Evan's formidable power, Michael did not perceive him as a significant threat, even with the grace. Unlike Evan, whose godhood level would remain stagnant unless he amassed millions of loyal worshippers in both the mortal realm and the realm of gods, Michael possessed the ability to level up his own godhood rapidly. He only needed to locate and absorb the seeds of darkness, as well as eliminate individuals to earn experience points and advance his power. This unique method of progression made Andor, the ruler of Hell, consider Michael a far greater threat to the gods and the realm of gods than even Dagon himself. Keeping himself concealed amidst the towering coral reefs and massive coral structures, Michael silently observed as Evan entered the city of Serpent and began his journey toward the castle. "Stop right there." The earthen guards, resembling graceful carp or catfish, called out to Evan as he approached the castle. Their shimmering scales caught the light, and their 2 arms, each with 3 fingers, enabled them to interact with their surroundings. Some of the guards had small feet that allowed them to walk on land, while others floated above the ground with an air of fluidity. From his hidden vantage point behind the coral structures, Michael continued to observe Evan's encounter with the guards. One by one, more royal guards, positioned in various stages of cultivation, emerged to surround Evan. To Michael's surprise, these guards were at either the fusion stage level 10 or the half-immortal stage, showcasing their formidable power. When Michael utilized his X-ray vision to scan the castle, he discovered the presence of several immortal stage guards within its walls. The sheer strength and number of these guards astonished him. However, something seemed amiss to Michael. The energy radiation emanating from the guards appeared unstable and violent, as if they had utilized unconventional methods to accelerate their cultivation at a pace that their bodies and souls could not fully endure. Unbeknownst to Michael, the Serpent King, after attaining godhood, had used his grace to strengthen his army, resulting in the unstable energy radiation Michael now observed. If this fallen god has any grudges against me, imagine the experience points I could gain by slaughtering his army and absorbing their souls once the system is online. Michael couldn't help but savor the thought of the potential experience points that awaited him. "Stand down. I am here to see your Serpent King," Evan declared with an authoritative tone, exuding immense self-confidence and authority granted by his godhood. This assertion caused Michael to chuckle, reminiscing about the time he had sent Evan flying with a single punch, rendering him unconscious. "You have no right to be here, human. Leave now or we will take you down," one of the earthen guards responded sternly, his voice filled with authority. Evan, growing impatient, clenched his fist and issued a warning to the guards. "Guys, I don't want to do this, but I am on a tight schedule here. So stand down or I will make you." Despite Evan's threat, the guards remained resolute, refusing to back down. Their determination was unwavering and they stood their ground, prepared to defend their post. Meanwhile, Michael, observing the situation from his hiding spot, devised a backup plan to handle Evan. Just as the tension filled the air, a thunderous voice reverberated throughout the entire Serpent Hall. All eyes turned toward the source of the voice, and Michael raised his head, catching sight of a figure emerging onto the balcony atop the castle. The presence commanded attention, exuding an aura of power and authority. As the figure stepped onto the balcony, the grandeur of his presence became apparent. He was a merman, standing tall and regal, his upper body exuding an otherworldly beauty reminiscent of the elven kind. Adorned in kingly robes that billowed around him, he commanded attention wherever he went. The crimson-red trident held firmly in his hand showcased his authority and power. A crimson-red crown adorned his head, its intricate design resembling the hood of a cobra. The crown curved gracefully, framing his face and accentuating his noble features. Atop his head, a part of the crown extended upward, resembling the head of a cobra ready to strike, adding an intimidating touch to his appearance. His muscular physique, evident even beneath the flowing robes, spoke of immense strength and power. Every movement he made seemed effortless, displaying a sense of control and dominance. His eyes glimmered with anger and arrogance as he looked down upon Evan, his gaze filled with superiority. With a commanding presence, the Serpent King surveyed the scene below him, his gaze fixated on Evan. Every fiber of his being exuded authority and dominance, leaving no doubt that he was a force to be reckoned with in the Sea Serpent Hall. Serpent King, I come before you with a pressing matter that requires your assistance. We must speak at once. Evan spoke with determination, hoping to convey the urgency of his request. However, his words were met with a mocking laugh from the Serpent King, further fueling Evan's surprise and curiosity. You think me a fool, human? I am well aware of your intentions. You seek to use my wind tunnel to reach Widow's Down, the Serpent King responded, his voice laced with a hint of disdain. I think you should take a look at Evan composed himself, maintaining his calmness despite the unexpected revelation. If you know why I need to reach Widow's Down before the Dark Lord, then you understand the gravity of the situation. Time is of the essence, Evan explained, emphasizing the urgency that hung in the air. The mention of the Dark Lord's name stirred unease among the soldiers, their whispers betraying their fear. Yet it was the Serpent King's reaction that surprised both Evan and Michael. The Serpent King's eyes blazed with anger, his body trembling with pure rage at the mere mention of the Dark Lord's name. The Dark Lord will not set foot in my kingdom and leave unscathed, the Serpent King spat, his words dripping with venom and hatred. Realizing the precarious situation and the imminent danger posed by the Dark Lord, Evan tried to reason with the Serpent King. If I have learned that the quickest way to reach Widow's Down is through your wind tunnel, then the Dark Lord may have discovered it as well. Every moment wasted brings him closer to your castle. Let me assist you, Serpent King, Evan pleaded, hoping to find a compromise. The Serpent King's expression twisted into a sneer, his anger unyielding. You wish to help me? Then bring me the Dark Lord's head, and I shall grant you access to my wind tunnel. Until then you can fuck off, the Serpent King coldly declared, turning away and dismissing Evan without a second thought. A sneer crossed the Serpent King's face as he turned away, dismissing Evan's request. You leave me no choice, Evan clenched his fist, his eyes beginning to glow with a golden light. The earthen guards surrounding him became aware of the low hum emanating from Evan, a clear sign that he was about to unleash his power. Sensing danger, they braced themselves, knowing that Evan was about to strike. True to their expectations, Evan unleashed a powerful shockwave of golden energy, propelling the guards backward and leaving a trail of chaos in his wake. With a swift and fluid motion, Evan unleashed a barrage of spells and physical attacks upon the earthen guards. Brilliant bursts of blue and golden light illuminated the surroundings as powerful spells erupted from his fingertips. The air crackled with energy, and the ground trembled with each devastating strike. The people in the vicinity suddenly became aware of the fierce conflict unfolding before them. Panic ensued as they scattered in all directions, seeking safety from the escalating confrontation. The peaceful atmosphere shattered as the sound of crashing spells and the clash of steel reverberated through the air. In the midst of the chaos, the Serpent King halted his steps, his curiosity piqued by the commotion behind him. He turned around, his crimson eyes fixated on the spectacle before him. A twisted smile played across his face as he observed Evan, a mere human, daring to challenge his guards. Michael, hidden among the coral structures, watched the fight unfold with a mix of surprise and anticipation. The display of Evan's power intrigued him, and he studied every move, spell, and strike with keen interest. Evan's attacks were relentless and precise, each blow landing with pinpoint accuracy. Guards were thrown into the air, crashing into buildings with bone-shattering force. Spells tore through the air, leaving trails of destruction in their wake. The guards fought back valiantly, their roars of defiance echoing through the battlefield. Citizens, shocked and confused, watched the unfolding spectacle with wide eyes. What is happening? One person gasped, clutching their loved ones tightly. Amidst the chaos, the guards bellowed at each other, their voices filled with determination and anger. Take him down, one guard growled, swinging his weapon with all his might. Protect the Serpent King, another shouted, their voice filled with loyalty and unwavering dedication. The clash between Evan and the guards intensified, with each side unleashing their most devastating techniques. The guards coughed up blood as they crashed into buildings and the unforgiving ground, their bodies battered and bruised. As the battle between Evan and the guards raged on, the Serpent King's eyes narrowed with a mix of irritation and amusement. With a sudden movement, he raised his crimson-red trident, channeling his power into a concentrated beam of energy. The beam shot forth, colliding with Evan and sending him hurtling through the air, crashing into a nearby structure with a resounding impact. Hovering effortlessly in the air, the Serpent King slowly descended from the balcony, his presence exuding an overwhelming aura of authority and power. His eyes glowed with a malevolent gleam as he approached Evan, a wicked smile curling upon his lips. "So, you dare to challenge me, human?" the Serpent King taunted, his voice dripping with arrogance. "I suppose I should thank you for providing me with some entertainment. It has been far too long since I've had a good battle to stretch my muscles." In a display of unfathomable power, the Serpent King's form began to transform. His body elongated and contorted, his once regal appearance taking on the shape of a giant crimson-red cobra. Majestic wings sprouted from his back, and his fangs grew longer and sharper. A red mist emanated from his serpentine form, swirling around him with an ominous presence. The Serpent King, now a colossal serpent with immense wings, towered over the battlefield, his crimson scales glistening under the ambient light. His piercing eyes locked onto Evan, radiating a hunger for victory and dominance. With a voice that echoed through the air, the Serpent King hissed, "Prepare yourself, human. You shall witness the might of a true god." Chapter 10:17. Serpent King's love is Michael's subordinate? The Serpent King lunged forward with incredible speed, his massive form surging through the air towards Evan. In a swift motion, he coiled his serpentine tail around Evan's body, constricting him tightly. Evan struggled against the powerful grip, his muscles straining as he attempted to break free. With his cobra head hovering mere inches away from Evan's face, the Serpent King hissed with a mixture of curiosity and suspicion. "There's something peculiar about your grace, human. It feels different, tainted somehow." Evan gritted his teeth, his determination evident despite his predicament. "You know nothing. My grace is my own, and I will not be stopped by the likes of you." The Serpent King chuckled, his voice echoing with a hint of amusement. "We shall see, human. We shall see." As Evan continued to struggle against the constricting coils of the Serpent King's tail, Michael observed the scene in silence from his hidden vantage point. He could sense the immense power emanating from the Serpent King and understood the danger that Evan was facing. However, he saw an opportunity amidst the chaos. While the Serpent King was focused on his confrontation with Evan, Michael formulated a plan to infiltrate the castle. He knew he had to seize this moment to make his move, utilizing the distraction to navigate through the Serpent King's domain undetected. As the Serpent King poised his fangs to strike, Evan's eyes blazed with golden energy. With a mighty roar, he summoned forth his own power, surging with a raw force that shattered the coils of the Serpent King's tail. Freed from the constricting grip, Evan launched himself forward, delivering a powerful punch that connected with the Serpent King's scaled jaw. However, the Serpent King was not so easily defeated. With a swift swing of his powerful tail, he sent Evan hurtling through the air, crashing into the nearby structures. The impact shook the ground beneath them, causing debris to scatter in all directions. Unfurling his majestic wings, the Serpent King soared higher into the sky, his snake-like body morphing to accommodate a humanoid hand. The crimson-red trident flew into his hand, gleaming with malevolent intent. With a swift motion, he thrust the trident towards Evan, aiming to impale him upon its deadly prongs. But Evan was prepared. As the trident descended, he channeled his energy, creating a shimmering golden chakra that formed a defensive barrier around him. The clash between the trident and the golden shield sent shockwaves rippling through the air, causing the barrier to flicker and shimmer. Their fierce battle took them beyond the confines of the balcony and into the open ocean outside the city. Breaking through the energy dome that protected the city, they continued their airborne struggle amidst the vast expanse of water. The barrier of the dome crackled and shimmered as they passed through, the protective magic being tested to its limits. Surrounded by the shimmering waters, Evan and the Serpent King engaged in a high-stakes confrontation. Their powerful forms clashed, creating ripples and waves that cascaded through the ocean. "Thank you, Evan," Michael whispered under his breath, his voice carried away by the turbulent waters. With a determined resolve, he set his sights on the castle and began making his way towards it, navigating through the swirling currents caused by the ongoing battle between Evan and the Serpent King. The ripples in the water distorted Michael's vision, making it challenging to move in a straight line. But he relied on his instincts and honed reflexes, darting through the chaotic underwater environment with lightning speed. He deftly avoided the guards who were caught up in the spectacle of the battle, their attention completely focused on the epic struggle unfolding before them. As Michael neared the castle, he observed the soldiers exchanging awe-filled remarks about the Serpent King's formidable moves and devastating attacks. Their voices were muffled by the water, but their words carried a mix of admiration and fear. Did you see how he coiled around Evan like a true serpent? One soldier exclaimed. That strike with his fangs was quick as lightning, another soldier added. He's relentless. The Serpent King's power is unmatched. While the soldiers were engrossed in discussing the Serpent King's prowess, Michael seized the opportunity to slip past them unnoticed. He swiftly made his way to the same balcony where the Serpent King had made his first appearance. Without hesitation, Michael stepped onto the balcony, his figure shrouded in shadows. The soldiers, still caught up in their conversation about the ongoing battle, failed to notice his presence. In the midst of their discussions, they were oblivious to the infiltrator moving with purpose towards the heart of the castle. As Michael landed inside the castle through the balcony, he swiftly scanned his surroundings. The dimly lit hallway stretched before him, adorned with elegant tapestries and intricate carvings. But his attention was quickly drawn to the sound of approaching footsteps. A group of soldiers rounded the corner, their armor clinking with each step. They caught sight of Michael standing in the hallway, and their eyes widened in alarm. "Intruder!" one soldier shouted, his voice echoing through the corridor. The others reacted with instinctive aggression, drawing their weapons and lunging towards Michael. Clad in his full Dark Lord armor, Michael remained calm and composed. He covered his face with his skull mask, its intimidating presence instilling fear in the hearts of his enemies. The soldiers, however, were little too late to realize the true extent of Michael's power. "I think you should take a look at." With a burst of speed, Michael utilized his lightning dash spell, which allowed him to move with blinding swiftness. He closed the distance between himself and the group of soldiers in an instant. His dark sword gleamed ominously as it sliced through the air. One by one, the soldiers fell before him, their bodies unable to withstand the devastating power of his strikes. Blood splattered on the walls, and their screams were muffled by the dark aura that enveloped Michael's sword. The clash was over in mere moments, leaving only one soldier standing. He trembled in fear, witnessing the merciless efficiency with which Michael dispatched his comrades. Michael stared at the lone soldier, his voice carrying a chilling undertone. "Tell me where I can find the wind tunnel." The remaining soldier trembled under Michael's intense gaze, sweat trickling down his forehead. He stuttered, struggling to form coherent words. I don't know, please." Without warning, Michael tightened his grip on the soldier's shoulder, his fingers digging into the flesh. The soldier winced in pain as the pressure began to break his shoulder, his cries filling the corridor. "Tell me," Michael growled, his voice dripping with menace. "Where can I find the wind tunnel?" Tears streamed down the soldier's face as he whimpered in agony. It might be in the Serpent King's chamber. He keeps many secrets there." Satisfied with the answer, Michael released his hold on the soldier, who collapsed to the ground, clutching his injured shoulder. The soldier looked up at Michael with pleading eyes, silently begging for mercy. But Michael was not the one to grant mercy to his foes. Instead of granting mercy, Michael fired the dark beams out of his eyes, turning the soldier's head into a bloody pulp. As Michael moved swiftly through the castle, his X-ray eyes granted him the ability to see through the walls, revealing the secrets hidden within. His gaze pierced through the stone, revealing a hidden chamber beyond. Inside he observed 4 imposing figures clad in armor, radiating a powerful aura. These were no ordinary guards, they were immortal stage warriors, guardians of great strength and skill. Michael's instincts told him that whatever lay behind the guarded door must hold significant importance for the Serpent King. This could very well be the entrance to the Serpent King's chamber, the heart of his power and secrets. "What's happening out there?" one of the guards at the Immortal stage asked. They were dressed in crimson-red scales, resembling the scales of the Serpent King himself. "Shouldn't we go and investigate?" another guard questioned, concern evident in his voice. "No," replied a third guard firmly. "His Majesty has given us strict orders to remain at our posts. Whatever is happening outside, we can trust that our fellow guards can handle it." The conversation turned to the whereabouts of the Serpent King, who had gone to the balcony and had yet to return. Speculation arose among the guards as to whether their king was engaged in battle. "Perhaps His Majesty is fighting," one guard pondered aloud. "If that's the case, I pity whoever he's facing," another guard chuckled, their confidence in their own strength apparent. To the guards, reaching the Immortal stage was seen as the ultimate achievement of power. They believed that once they had attained this level, no one could pose a threat to them. And in truth, there were only a select few beings in the world who had achieved immortality. However, what they failed to realize was that there was one being who had surpassed the Immortal stage and ascended to an even higher realm of power. The Dark Lord, having transcended immortality and reached the elusive realm of half-celestial, was preparing to unleash his wrath upon them. Soon, they would come face to face with the undeniable truth that their perceived invincibility was nothing more than a fragile illusion in the presence of such formidable might. The guards' ears perked up as they caught the sound of heavy footsteps approaching. Their eyes widened in fear as they turned their gazes toward the left. Emerging from around the corner was a figure shrouded in complete black armor, donning a menacing skull mask and a billowing black cape. Their hearts pounded with dread, and an overwhelming sense of fear gripped their beings. Unbeknownst to them, Michael had released a potent fear toxin into the air from his suit of armor, further intensifying their terror and rendering them weak. Before the guards could react, Michael raised his hand, unleashing a wave of dark flames that surged forth. Initially, their armor resisted the dark flames, but the second and third waves proved too powerful, melting the soldiers' armor and consuming them within its fiery embrace. The agonizing screams of the soldiers echoed through the hallway, sending shivers down Michael's spine. As he heard more footsteps approaching, he swiftly kicked open the door that the guards had been protecting, entering the chamber where the Serpent King awaited. However, upon stepping into the chamber, he was taken aback by a portrait hanging on the wall above a magnificent bed. It depicted a young woman with flowing black hair, and without a shadow of a doubt, Michael recognized her despite only knowing her face from a younger age. "Cindy?" Michael whispered, his voice filled with surprise and confusion. Chapter 10:18 Serpent King's Return. Michael stood in stunned silence, his gaze fixed upon Cindy's portrait hanging prominently in the Serpent King's room. It depicted her in her older age, perhaps in her late 20s, a young woman filled with beauty and grace. The sight perplexed Michael, leaving him to wonder why the Serpent King would possess such a portrait. "What the fuck? Who are you?" Half celestial. Lost in his thoughts, Michael momentarily forgot about the soldiers rushing into the room, their voices filled with alarm and confusion. However, their cries were abruptly silenced as Michael effortlessly raised his hand and unleashed lightning bolts from his fingertips, striking down the guards without even turning to face them. The sight of Cindy's portrait stirred a deep well of emotions within Michael. Though not consumed by anger, he felt an overwhelming surge of killing intent coursing through his veins. In that moment, anyone else might have succumbed to their rage and engaged the Serpent King in battle. However, Michael's rationality prevailed, and his focus shifted to finding the wind tunnel. Activating his X-ray eyes, Michael's irises glowed with an ethereal light as he scanned the entire room. His gaze swept across the chamber, taking in its details. Fallen soldiers lay motionless on the ground, their heads pierced by lightning bolts, a testament to Michael's lethal precision. Beyond them, his eyes caught sight of a concealed glowing rune hidden behind the Serpent King's room, beckoning him forward. Michael approached the rune, situated on the headboard of the bed, its invisible presence palpable beneath his fingertips. As he made contact with the rune, a surge of energy coursed through his body, causing a subtle trembling sensation. Without hesitation, Michael clenched his fist and struck the rune with a powerful blow, shattering the bed's head in the process. The moment the rune was shattered, a distinct clicking sound resonated from beneath the bed. Reacting swiftly, Michael delivered a forceful kick, sending the bed hurtling towards the wall. The impact caused the bed to splinter and break apart, unveiling a concealed floor hidden beneath it. The door on the hidden floor lacked a traditional knob or handle, instead featuring a singular rune as its means of activation. Unfazed by the absence of conventional mechanisms, Michael relied on his strength. He stomped forcefully on the ground, shattering the door into countless pieces. As the fragments scattered, a powerful gust of wind erupted from the newly revealed opening, engulfing the room and sending objects flying. In an instant, the swirling vortex began to pull everything within its reach, creating a powerful suction force. As the soldiers rushed into the room, their faces contorted with anger and determination, their shouts filled the air. "There he is. Take him down. Don't let him escape." But their cries were abruptly cut short as the powerful suction force of the wind tunnel took hold. The soldiers, caught off guard by the sudden gust, struggled to maintain their balance. Helplessly they were pulled towards the gaping hole, their screams echoing throughout the chamber. Amidst the chaos, Michael stood steadfast on the ground, rooted in place by his immense strength. The wind whipped around him, tugging at his cloak and armor, but he remained unmoved, unaffected by the pull of the wind tunnel. His eyes focused on the soldiers, his face expressionless as he witnessed their futile attempts to resist the relentless force. This chapter upload first at NWSB. C0M? One by one, the soldiers were dragged closer to the edge of the hole, their outstretched hands desperately grasping for something to hold onto. Their screams grew more frantic as they were sucked into the wind tunnel, disappearing into the depths below. Michael watched in silence, his gaze unwavering as the last soldier was swallowed by the wind tunnel. The room fell into an eerie stillness, the only sound remaining the faint howling of the wind. Michael peered down into the abyss, his gaze fixed on the swirling red mist that filled the wind tunnel. The mist, a macabre mixture of blood and shattered bodies, bore witness to the devastating power of the suction force. The soldiers who had been unfortunate enough to be pulled into the depths had met a gruesome fate, their bodies bursting from the sheer intensity of the wind's pull. Undeterred by the horrifying sight, Michael unfurled the metal wings concealed within his armor. The wings gleamed in the dim light of the chamber, their intricate design hinting at their hidden strength. With a leap of faith, he propelled himself into the wind tunnel, soaring through the crimson mist. As Michael descended further into the depths, the force of the wind intensified, threatening to tear him apart. Yet, he gritted his teeth and pressed onward, his wings beating against the powerful currents. The red mist engulfed him, obscuring his vision, but he remained resolute, guided by his unwavering determination. The wind tunnel seemed to stretch into an infinite abyss, with no end in sight. Michael braced himself against the unyielding forces, his eyes fixed on the unknown destination that awaited him. The roar of the wind echoed in his ears, urging him to forge ahead, deeper into the mysteries that lay beneath the Serpent King's castle. As Michael delved deeper into the depths of the ocean, the surroundings grew increasingly dim and foreboding. The once vibrant blue hue transformed into an abyssal darkness, enveloping everything in its grasp. The only sources of illumination were the ethereal glow emitted by a school of bioluminescent fish, their soft radiance casting an eerie light on the murky waters. Yet, it was the ominous red beam emanating from the skull on Michael's chest armor that provided him with a clearer view of his surroundings. Amidst the inky depths, a peculiar structure emerged, floating mysteriously in the depths of the ocean. The distant hum that reached Michael's ears heightened his anticipation. He knew that within this enigmatic structure lay the potential for acquiring another seed of darkness, a crucial step towards permanently restoring the dormant system. Drawing closer to the structure, Michael's senses sharpened, and he became aware of multiple presences lurking in its vicinity. Realizing the need for stealth, he swiftly deactivated the light beams emanating from his chest, merging seamlessly with the encompassing darkness. His form became indistinguishable, blending into the shadows as he observed the unfolding scene. His attention was drawn to a colossal eel-like creature, a behemoth that dwarfed the surrounding underwater landscape. Its immense size, comparable to a 3-story building, was emphasized by the crackling electric bolts that danced along its serpentine body. The monstrous creature approached the structure with a sense of purpose, its presence both awe-inspiring and unnerving. As Michael observed the colossal eel with chains and hooks embedded in its skin, blood trickling from its wounds, his curiosity intensified. However, his attention was quickly drawn to several mermen clad in emerald green armor who seemed to be in control of the chains. They were shouting commands at the eel, urging it to move swiftly, and forcefully yanking the chains to guide its movements. "We need to break this structure before the other houses have a chance to reach it," one of the mermen exclaimed, their voice filled with urgency. "I think you should take a look at, pull harder, we cannot afford any delays," another merman barked, their eyes filled with determination. The mermens worked in unison, their movements graceful and fluid, as they coordinated their efforts to manipulate the eel and break free from the structure. Their emerald armor shimmered under the dim light, reflecting their otherworldly beauty. "Do not falter. We must succeed," a third merman shouted, their voice resonating with unwavering resolve. Their voices echoed through the water, mixing with the sounds of the eel's thunderous movements. Michael watched silently, blending into the darkness, as the mermen struggled against the resistance of the structure and the relentless pressure of the deep ocean. As the mermen yanked on the chains, the eel let out a deep, guttural growl of pain. The sound reverberated through the water, sending ripples of unease through Michael. The mermen, undeterred by the eel's distress, shouted at it with fierce determination. "Move, giant. Break through the structure." One merman commanded, their voice filled with urgency. "Use your strength. Tear it apart." Another merman called out, their tone resolute. The eel responded to their cries, its massive body writhing and thrashing against the restraints. The chains strained under the immense force, creaking and groaning as the eel fought to break free. With each pull, the eel's growls intensified, a symphony of pain and determination echoing through the water. Push harder, giant. We must not let the other houses claim this power. A third merman urged, their voice filled with a mix of desperation and determination. As the mermans and the eel continued their struggle, a momentary connection passed between Michael and the giant eel. In that fleeting instant, it seemed as if the eel locked its eyes with Michael, as though silently pleading for assistance. Michael was taken aback by this unexpected connection, feeling a pang of empathy for the creature's pain. However, the eel's gaze quickly shifted away as the mermans forcefully pulled on the chains, urging it forward in agony. The eel's attention was solely focused on obeying its captors, its primal instincts overriding any potential alliance that could have formed with Michael. With a tremendous impact, the eel crashed into the structure, causing shockwaves to ripple through the surrounding waters. Michael felt the power of the impact reverberate through his body, witnessing the cracks forming on the surface of the strange cube-shaped structure. It was evident that the combined efforts of the eel and the mermans were having an effect, gradually weakening the integrity of the structure. Amidst the chaos, Michael's keen observation skills allowed him to identify 5 half-immortals among the soldiers of the Water God Hall. These half-immortals possessed a stable energy radiation, signifying their cultivation to the half-immortal stage had been achieved through natural means, without the use of shortcuts or artificial enhancements. As Michael saw the cracks widening, he sprang into action. True to his nature, he preferred to let his enemies do the heavy lifting while he reaped the rewards at the opportune moment. Swiftly navigating through the dark depths of the ocean, Michael raised his hand and took aim at the eel's chains. A bolt of lightning surged forth from his fingertips, speeding towards its target, intending to sever the bonds that held the eel captive. With pinpoint accuracy, the lightning bolt unleashed by Michael struck the hook attached to the chain, shattering it into pieces. The mermans who were controlling the eel stood in stunned silence, their eyes widening with disbelief. The giant is breaking free. One merman shouted, panic lacing his voice. Hold on tight. We can't let it escape. Enraged by its newfound freedom, the eel let out a thunderous roar, its massive body violently squirming as it struggled to break another chain. The mermans, realizing the imminent danger, swiftly reacted by thrusting a jade spear into the eel's side, attempting to subdue its rebellion. Unfazed by the merman's desperate efforts, Michael, undeterred, fired 2 more lightning bolts. The bolts crackled through the water, obliterating the remaining chains that restrained the giant eel. As the chains shattered, releasing the eel completely, the mermans let out horrified screams, their faces contorted with fear and shock. The fucking giant is free, one merman cried out, his voice trembling with a mixture of fear and disbelief. It is free. Another merman, his voice filled with desperation, added, we must retreat. We cannot fight against this unleashed power. As the eel swam freely, its rage echoed through the ocean depths, causing the water to churn and swirl. The mermans, overwhelmed by fear, quickly turned away, their thoughts consumed by the need to escape the wrath of the unleashed giant. As Michael silently observed the chaotic scene, a small smirk formed beneath his skull mask. With the giant eel now free, a burst of electricity shot from its body, electrifying everything within a 1-mile radius. Even Michael felt a chilling jolt of pain, but his armor protected him from the full force of the shock. The water god soldiers, clad in their jade armor, were shielded from the electrical surge, but they soon discovered that their armor provided no defense against the eel's vicious bites. Fueled by anger, the giant eel hunted down the soldiers one by one, overpowering them with its immense strength. Amidst the carnage, Michael watched with a twisted satisfaction, pleased with the chaos he had unleashed. However, his attention quickly shifted back to the cube-shaped structure. Determined to break it and claim the seed of darkness within, he propelled himself toward it with unwavering resolve. But just as he was about to shatter the structure, a crimson-red trident shot through the water, impaling his hand and pinning it against the structure. Michael's eyes widened behind his skull mask as he saw the Serpent King, now in his serpentine form, emerging through the wind tunnel and swiftly approaching him. You are not getting it, Dark Lord, the Serpent King hissed, his voice laced with venomous intent. Read chapters 915 and 916 to refresh your memories. Chapter 1019. Serpent King loves Cindy. Michael forcefully pulled out the crimson-red trident that was embedded in his hand, grimacing at the pain it caused. As he struggled to free himself, the Serpent King swiftly approached, his transformed cobra head locking eyes with Michael's gaze. I have waited countless years for this moment, hissed the Serpent King, his voice dripping with venom. However, faced with a fallen god and a threatening giant cobra, Michael remained unfazed. With a hint of mockery in his voice, Michael retorted, "Ever heard of breath mints?" He knew that as a god, he couldn't be killed, and he sensed that the Serpent King was about to embark on a peculiar tale. "You destroyed my love. Because of you she never loved me back," hissed the Serpent King, his voice filled with bitterness and resentment. "Are you talking about Cindy?" Michael asked, his eyes cold and unyielding. As he uttered those words, the Serpent King's tail slowly coiled around Michael, tightening its grip. "My eternal love, the love you shattered," hissed the Serpent King, his eyes revealing the pain of lost love and the bitterness of failure. With a cold tone, Michael replied, "You do realize that Cindy is just 11 years old, and I have no idea what you're talking about." A sinister smile crept across the Serpent King's face as his tail tightened its grip around Michael, exerting pressure that would shatter ordinary bones. "Allow me to refresh your memories, Dark Lord," hissed the Serpent King, his voice filled with a twisted determination. "When you stripped me of my grace, I hid my memories along with it. But now, I will make you open the barrier you placed around the mortal realm. Once I reclaim my true form, I will be unstoppable, and I will claim Cindy, the most exquisite mortal in all realms." The Serpent King revealed his true intentions, fueled by a burning desire for power and possession. Amidst the escalating tension, Michael's laughter erupted, echoing through the water. The Serpent King's tail exerted immense pressure, but Michael remained unaffected, his strength surpassing mortal limits, bolstered by his impenetrable armor. "What's so amusing? I may not be able to kill you, but I can break your mortal vessel and condemn your soul to wander this world for eternity," threatened the Serpent King, his voice laced with malice. Yet, Michael's laughter ceased abruptly, replaced by a sly smirk on his face. "So, you've regained your memories and yet you chose to cross my path," Michael snickered, his voice dripping with amusement. "Listen carefully, you foolish snake. I am married to a serpent far more fearsome than you could ever comprehend. Believe me when I say that the version of me you encountered 5,000 years ago pales in comparison to the cruelty I am capable of. I possess a twisted creativity when it comes to dealing with my enemies. Trust me, you do not want to become my enemy. Step aside while you still have the chance," Michael warned, his tone laced with a hint of menace. However, the Serpent King paid no heed to Michael's warning. Arrogance consumed him, convinced that his elevated status as a level 2 god surpassed Michael's level 1 godhood. Little did he realize the depths of darkness and power that Michael truly held. "As much I hate you, I love the words you said to me before you stripped me of my grace. When you have your enemy at your mercy, don't talk, just end them," the Serpent King echoed the words of the previous Dark Lord. Despite the tightening grip of the Serpent King's tail and the venomous fangs poised to strike, Michael remained resolute. He prepared to unleash his dark flames upon his adversary, but before he could, a golden ball of light materialized above the Serpent King. In a flash, the golden ball struck the Serpent King, sending him stumbling backward through the depths of the water. As the radiant light subsided, Evan emerged, his presence commanding and powerful. Evan turned his gaze towards Michael, their eyes meeting once again. The last time they crossed paths, Evan had feared the overwhelming power of Ghost, but now he stood stronger, filled with the conviction that he could vanquish the Dark Lord he had become. However, the situation became complicated for Evan as he found himself facing the Dark Lord, standing before the very object Salisi had ordered him to protect. This chapter upload first at NWSB, C0M? Evan could sense the arrogance emanating from behind the skull mask worn by Ghost. At first, Evan had been reluctant to believe the rumors about Ghost, the stories of his insatiable hunger for power, his manipulative nature and his cruel actions. But witnessing the devastation brought upon Thusia and the Guardian Guild, Evan couldn't deny the truth. Thousands of lives had been lost, and the world continued to bear the consequences of Ghost's actions. Seeing the Dark Lord before him, Evan's grip tightened on the trident lodged in Michael's hand, driving it deeper into the unforgiving marble. "You cannot face him alone," Michael calmly stated, his voice laced with an underlying understanding. "Even if I cannot defeat him, I won't strike a deal with the devil," Evan sneered, his determination unwavering. "Better the known devil than the unknown angel," Michael retorted, his words hinting at the complexities of their predicament. The Serpent King roared in frustration, his voice echoing through the depths of the ocean. "I've had enough of your annoying interference, you stupid fool god." He snarled, his serpentine form surging forward to attack Evan. Evan, undeterred by the Serpent King's insults, stood his ground, determination gleaming in his eyes. "You are wasting my time, Serpent King," he retorted with unwavering confidence. As the two clashed, the water around them became turbulent, swirling and churning with their powerful spells. The Serpent King conjured swirling currents that twisted and thrashed, while Evan called upon beams of radiant energy that pierced through the dark waters. The spells took on magnificent forms. Serpents of lightning slithered through the water, crackling with electric energy, while bursts of golden light erupted like celestial explosions. The surrounding ocean itself seemed to respond, with currents shifting and waves crashing against unseen barriers. The combatants exchanged lightning-fast blows, their movements a blur of speed and precision. The Serpent King's massive jaws snapped, aiming to ensnare Evan, while Evan's agile maneuvers evaded the deadly bite. Evan retaliated with divine strikes, his punches empowered by his celestial grace, while the Serpent King thrashed his massive tail, seeking to batter Evan into submission. The clash of their powers and physical blows reverberated through the underwater realm, creating shockwaves that rippled across the ocean floor. Each strike echoed with a display of immense strength and skill, as they fought for dominance in the depths. Amidst the fierce battle, their exchanges were punctuated by snarls and roars, their voices echoing through the watery expanse. The Serpent King taunted Evan, his voice dripping with venom. "You can't defeat me, little god. I am the true ruler of the sea." The Serpent King's hands, awkwardly protruding from his serpentine form, rose into the air. In a mesmerizing display, the crimson-red trident held firmly in Michael's hand moments ago, was pulled back by an invisible force, leaving Michael free. The trident flew back to the Serpent King, nestling into his grasp. As the trident reunited with its master, a surge of power radiated from the Serpent King, causing the ocean itself to respond to his command. The waters around him stirred and swirled as if acknowledging his authority. With the trident firmly in his hand, he aimed its sharp points directly at Evan. A powerful gust of current, unleashed by the Serpent King's command, surged forward with incredible force. It struck Evan square in the chest before he could even react, the impact sending him reeling backward. The sheer power of the current's impact was overwhelming, leaving Evan momentarily stunned. "I think you should take a look at." As the battle unfolded deep within the ocean, the Serpent King exerted his control over the watery realm with immense power. He unleashed a barrage of ferocious attacks against Evan, each one more devastating than the last. With a flick of his tail, the Serpent King conjured a massive whirlpool that spiraled toward Evan. The swirling currents threatened to engulf him, pulling him deeper into the depths of the ocean. The Serpent King taunted Evan, his voice dripping with superiority. "Pathetic fool. You should have left when you still had the chance." As Evan struggled to break free from the powerful currents, the Serpent King summoned pillars of water, shooting them upward with incredible force. The water pillars crashed down upon Evan, their impact sending shockwaves through his body. The Serpent King reveled in his dominance, his laughter echoing through the water. "Is this the extent of your power, little god?" Undeterred by the onslaught, Evan mustered his own powers, retaliating with bursts of golden energy. However, the Serpent King's mastery over the ocean allowed him to dodge and deflect Evan's attacks effortlessly. With a flick of his trident, he created a massive wave that surged toward Evan, threatening to engulf him in its crashing force. "I command this very ocean. You, an anomaly, cannot defeat me." The Serpent King continued his assault, conjuring storms of swirling currents, lightning bolts that crackled with electrical energy, and massive tidal waves that threatened to consume Evan. With every attack he taunted Evan, mocking his feeble attempts to challenge his authority. "You are nothing but an insect before my power. Kneel before me and beg for mercy, for I am a god unmatched in strength and dominion." As the battle raged on, the Serpent King's taunts and relentless attacks aimed to crush Evan's spirit and prove his own superiority as a god who controlled the very forces of the ocean. As the relentless assault from the Serpent King took its toll on Evan, he began to weaken. Blood trickled from his wounds, staining the water around him. Sensing his advantage, the Serpent King moved with lightning speed, his attacks becoming even more rapid and vicious. In a swift motion, the Serpent King closed in on Evan, his scaled grip tightening around him. With a malicious grin, he prepared to deliver a devastating finishing blow, one that would shatter Evan's spirit and seal his defeat. The anticipation hung heavy in the air as the Serpent King readied himself to strike. But before the Serpent King could land the final blow, a forceful impact resonated through the water. Michael, wielding his mighty Doombringer warhammer, had intervened, intercepting the Serpent King's attack. The force of Michael's strike sent the Serpent King hurtling backward, disoriented and momentarily stunned. With a calm and commanding presence, Michael turned his attention to Evan, his voice carrying a sense of purpose. Evan, listen to me. We have a choice. We can either join forces and bring down the Serpent King together, or we can continue to fight each other while he remains a threat to both of us. Evan, weakened and battered, looked at Michael with a mixture of determination and trust. He understood the gravity of the situation and the importance of unity against their common enemy. Slowly, Evan nodded, his resolve firm. Let's end this together, Evan said, his voice filled with newfound strength. United in their purpose, Michael and Evan set their sights on the recovering Serpent King, ready to unleash their combined might and forge a path to victory. Evan and Michael moved with synchronized precision, their attacks and spells intertwining seamlessly. Michael swung his Doombringer, summoning icy gusts that formed into swirling frost storms, chilling the water around them. He followed it up with black lightning bolts crackling from his hands, striking the Serpent King with electrifying force. Meanwhile, Evan utilized his celestial powers, channeling beams of radiant light that pierced through the depths, illuminating their battleground. The combination of frost storms and lightning bolts created a powerful synergy. As the Serpent King attempted to dodge the onslaught, he found himself caught in the crossfire, unable to evade every strike. But he proved to be a formidable opponent, retaliating with spells and attacks of his own. He conjured powerful currents, manipulating the ocean to disrupt Evan and Michael's movements. Waves crashed against them, threatening to engulf their efforts. Taunts escaped the Serpent King's lips as he lashed out. You fools! This is my domain. No one can overcome the might of the ocean and its rightful ruler. His voice echoed through the water, his confidence unyielding. He deftly evaded Michael's dark flames, using his serpentine agility to slither away from the consuming fire. Undeterred, Evan and Michael continued their onslaught. Evan channeled his celestial energy into radiant beams, guiding them with precision to strike the Serpent King's vulnerable spots. Michael, with eyes gleaming with darkness, unleashed dark beams from his gaze, seeking to pierce through the Serpent King's defenses. However, the Serpent King's control over the ocean remained a formidable challenge. He summoned colossal tidal waves, threatening to engulf Evan and Michael. Their movements were hindered, their attacks disrupted by the sheer force of the water. Yet even in the face of adversity they refused to yield. As the fierce battle raged on, a sudden shock and surprise coursed through Michael's veins as he witnessed the eel he had freed earlier join the fight against the Serpent King. His eyes widened with astonishment, realizing the unexpected ally that had come to his aid. The eel crackled with electric energy, its body emanating lightning bolts that surrounded the Serpent King, forming a cage of electricity. The Serpent King roared in frustration as the crackling bolts prevented him from maneuvering freely. With the Serpent King momentarily trapped, Evan seized the opportunity, unleashing beams of golden energy upon the weakened Serpent King. Each beam struck with precision, lashing out with a radiant force. At the same time, Michael released a relentless stream of dark flames, their infernal heat engulfing the Serpent King's form. With each strike, Evan and Michael roared in unison, their determination fueling their attacks. The battle reached its climax as the Serpent King found himself on the brink of defeat. A devilish grin crossed Michael's face as he observed the Serpent King's weakening state. In his mind, a sinister plan took shape, a way to secure his own victory. Though the Serpent King was dying, Michael knew he had an opportunity to exploit the situation, to gain an advantage that would secure their triumph. The Serpent King, racked with pain and seething with rage, cursed the eel that had betrayed him. Traitor! I will ensure your suffering knows no bounds for this treachery. He spat, his voice filled with venomous hatred. Evan, a tinge of regret in his voice, responded to the Serpent King's curses. I never wanted to hurt you, but you've left me with no choice. As the intense heat from Evan's attack and Michael's dark flames consumed the Serpent King's physical form, it melted away, dissolving into nothingness. The air grew still, the weight of the battle settling upon their weary shoulders. Evan and Michael both breathed heavily, their chests rising and falling as they took in the aftermath of their victorious struggle. Evan's gaze shifted between Michael and the cube-shaped structure that lay before them, its secrets beckoning. A devious grin played across his face as he reached into his belongings and pulled out a set of golden ropes. With a swift motion, he threw the ropes around Michael, expertly coiling him within their shimmering embrace. A smirk etched upon Evan's lips as he declared, Our temporary alliance against the Serpent King is terminated, my dear Dark Lord. His tone carried a subtle hint of amusement, a snicker betraying his mischievous intentions. Evan's eyes gleamed with a mix of amusement and cunning as he tightened the golden ropes around Michael, ensuring his immobilization. The Dark Lord, though bound, maintained a composed demeanor, his eyes fixed upon Evan. With a slight chuckle, Evan continued, his voice dripping with slyness, "You know, it's not necessarily a bad thing to stab the Dark Lord in the back. In fact, I'm quite sure you would have done the same to me if I hadn't beaten you to it." He tilted his head, a glimmer of mischief dancing in his gaze.